You either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nicho.
And I'm Chris.
And it is the year 2023. No, it is not technically, because we're recording for the first time, I think, since we started this podcast.
Time travel!
Recording ahead of 2023. But we'll pretend like it's 2023, so.
The future!
I hope everyone had a good holiday. We are back at the start of our year with our tradition of kicking off the year with an animated movie.
We do. We have a good one this time.
We did. And this one we decided to do one that's a classic from our early adulthood.
Yes.
Oh, well, technically I think you were still in high school when this one came out.
I believe you're correct. This was a hot topic.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We wanted so much merch from this when it came out.
Well, I didn't know about it probably until like 2010-ish, just because word doesn't travel very far if I was still in Italy at the time, so.
Fair, understandable.
But we are talking about 2009's Button-Dyed Coraline.
Not a Tim Burton film.
No, not at all. And I'll bring that up in a little bit, because I, for the longest time, thought it was a Tim Burton movie.
You and a lot of people.
Yes, for good reason too,
yes,
though.
it is confusing.
So, for those unfamiliar, Coraline is about a young girl who, after moving to their new home in Oregon, discovers a secret world with better parents, food, and much more room for activities.
It sounds delightful.
Yes.
But it's based off of a book from Neil Gaiman, so we know it can't be that great.
I'm not gonna lie, I really don't know much of this stuff.
Okay, so I am a huge Neil Gaiman fan, as, you know, anyone who reads nowadays kind of ends up being. This was one of the first books of his that I read.
Okay.
I did read it before the movie came out. Not by a lot, because I think there's only a 4-year difference between the book coming out and the movie.
Yes.
But it was right up there with, like, my friends were really into, like, Good Omens at the time and stuff like that. So his name was one that got passed around in the reading circle a lot.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So Coraline was written and directed by Henry Selick. And it, like you said, it's based off the Neil Gaiman book of the same name. It stars Dakota Fanning, Terry Hatcher, Robert Bailey Jr., and Keith David.
Yes.
Selick, while having a solid set of works, is probably still best known for Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach.
Mwah, I love them both.
But he did also direct Monkey Bone and the Little Nightmares TV show, as well as the most recent Wendell and Wild.
Yes.
But when it comes to Gaiman, like I said, I'm not super familiar with his writings, but I did find it interesting. He wrote the novel that Stardust is based on.
Yes, he did.
As well as he worked on the screenplay for 2007's Beowulf that, at some point I'll still keep plugging that at Crim's movie club, so that way eventually we'll get back to it, hopefully.
We will eventually go back around to it.
But not only did he write Good Omens, I'm aware of some of the other stuff that's based off his works, like American God.
You would fucking love American Gods, by the way.
I've heard.
It is a fucking balls trip, and it's amazing.
Maybe once I get through the 20 other TV shows I have to get through.
No. Read the book.
Oh.
You gotta read. I mean, yes, the TV show was fantastic. But the book, man. You're going through and you're like, the fuck is this talking rhino doing? It's amazing.
I'll have to give it a look.
Yes.
But he also did The Sandman, which...
Both the book and the TV show.
Yeah. So he's done a lot of work. I'm just not familiar with it.
He is one of the authors I plug constantly. I do think that for like a light reader, his writing style can be a little heavy. But a really good intro to Neil Gaiman's work is Coraline, along with, I think he remastered some of the Norse god legends. Fantastic, only takes like 2 hours to get through.
Explains why he worked on Beowulf.
Yes, and also American Gods, which is a really fun interpretation of god lore.
Okay. And since we do like putting faces to the names behind the voice acting, I kind of forgot that Dakota Fanning existed, because, I mean, she was kind of a rising child star back when I was a kid, if I remember right.
Yeah, she was in a lot of stuff for a while.
Yeah, like she was in the Cat in the Hat live action.
Yeah, I feel so bad about that.
War of the Worlds,
Yep.
Charlotte's Web, and Push.
Yeah, her name was a big name for a while, and then, I mean, she's not gone. She's still doing stuff, but like, she's not calling in movies like she used to.
Exactly. And as for Hatcher, I don't know her as well, but I guess she was a big part in Desperate Housewives and the Lewis and Clark or sorry, not Lewis, Lois and Clark, the Superman TV show from I think like the 80s. She played Lois.
Yeah, I do remember the Lois and Clark TV show, because again, I cannot watch any TV from this decade. So, like, I'm familiar with her, but I will say that, like, listening to her voice act versus watching her live, it's really easy to forget, like, to just lose her into the character.
Yeah. Well, and our generation will probably better know her as Paris Carver in Tomorrow Never Dies, as well as Miss Gradenko in Spy Kids.
Yes.
She's one of the bad guys.
The Spy Kids one, when you see her, you're like, oh, it's that person.
Yes.
Yeah. As with all Spy Kids things.
Yeah. And she plays the mom, so...
Yeah.
And when it comes to Bailey Jr., I don't know much of his stuff as well, but I know of him.
I think I'm more familiar with him than you are.
Yeah, he's been in a few TV shows, but I know him from that horrible movie, The Happening.
Yeah, I figured.
As well as he was in Bubble Boy and Dragonfly, which I know the cover of Dragonfly, but never got to it. So.
And I'm unfortunately very familiar with Bubble Boy, as my husband finds it fucking hilarious.
I mean, it is.
It's right
good.
up his. It's right up.
Pretty good.
It's right up his humor.
I did get him to watch The Gentleman last night, and he was into it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad. Broaden the man's horizons.
As for David, goddamn, has this man been in a lot.
Oh, fantastically in everything.
He was in Pitch Black, which we covered.
I love Pitch Black. Oh, so good.
He was the narrator in Okoto the Giant Boar in Princess Mononoke.
Hell yeah.
American side. He was in The Thing,
Mm-hmm.
They Live, Armageddon, and he's the president in Rick and Morty, as well as Otis Hayes Sr. in Nope.
Perfect.
Dude has like 347 acting credits, with 8 still upcoming.
He's busy man.
Dude has been doing a lot.
Yes. And like he's one of those actors where like once you spot him or once you hear him, he shows up fucking everywhere. But he doesn't like stand out like someone like Robert Downey Jr. does, where you're like, oh, I can spot him. You know what I mean?
He's very iconic for The Thing and They Live, so.
Yeah, but like once you see him, you're like spotting him all over the place,
Yeah.
kind of like Where's Waldo? But like you're not like seeking him out.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
And before we do get into Coraline proper, I thought
Yes.
it would be best to talk about the Studio Leica just a little bit. Which Studio Leica made Coraline. It's their first feature film.
Yes.
But I'm not going to go super into them at this point. I think they're worth their own spotlight episode.
They really are, because what you think of as emo kids from the 90s and 2000s, they had a huge hand in creating.
Mm-hmm. I think what a lot of people our age didn't know, that when this movie came out, it wasn't a Tim Burton movie.
No, but everyone thought it was.
Because it had a lot of the same style, and part of that is due to the crew from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Most of them returned to make this movie,
Yes.
or went away from Disney to make this.
Well, and at this time, too, we were in a weird limbo where Tim Burton had this ability to, like, brand himself on movies that he had no business being on.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't work on it, he didn't help produce it, he didn't even help write them, but because it was kind of dark and creepy, it got branded Tim Burton's style.
Yeah.
And so people assumed that Tim Burton has a really long rap sheet, when in reality, he really doesn't. It's pretty short.
Yeah, which actually, I think on one of the trailers in this DVD that I have is for his movie 9 that I kind of forgot existed.
It's like the first trailer that pops up, and I loved the movie 9, but yeah, it's one of those ones where like you kind of, like unless you're a hardcore 9 fan, you kind of forget about the ones that Tim Burton actually directed.
Yeah. Which I actually rewatched for Crim's Movie Club, or Chicken on Sticks Movie Club. I watched Edward Scissorhands today.
Yeah, so like he definitely helped start the whole stylistic movement, and he's definitely been a huge impact in like continuing on with that style. He definitely has a name in that style. Like people know what Tim Burton's style looks like, but just because it looks like that doesn't mean it's his.
Exactly.
And part of the confusion was he did help write Nightmare Before Christmas.
He wrote the short story or the poem that the movie's based off of.
Yes,
so.
and when the movie originally came out, it credited him as like part of the writing staff, which unfortunately people got confused with, this is Tim Burton's movie.
Yeah.
Like he had written it or something. No, he just helped with the poem.
Yeah, and I think he did a little supervision here and there, but Selleck was the big driving force behind that movie.
It really was. And unfortunately, Coraline was advertised as by the director of Nightmare Before Christmas, not his name, so people got confused really quick.
And see, I never saw the advertisements, so I just assumed because of, again, the style of how it looked.
And I had a lot of friends and myself who were like, this was our whole aesthetic. And so, like, we would get all of this stuff, and a lot of them would try, especially with how popular Nightmare Before Christmas became, a lot of these movies and merchandise would try to, like, tie themselves in some way to Nightmare Before Christmas. Either by saying, like, produced by, written by.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were real loosely attached. Some of them not, but some of them were, and some of them weren't even trying. They would just, like, stand next to the, like, stand next to the merch and stuff and be like, we the same! And, of course, we bought them.
Exactly. I mean, I moved back to the States in 2009, so I saw the merch blow up at Hot Topic.
Yeah, this was before Hot Topic got weird. I mean, it was always weird, but like it targeted the Tim Burton aesthetic hard during this time period.
There is so much weeb shit in every single store now.
Oh, yeah. But back then, it was specifically emo weeb shit.
And not even like, it was maybe like Death Note, if that.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Showing our age a little bit.
Yeah, like Death Note was dark and edgy at the time.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic.
Oh, one of these days.
But before we get into anything, I do want to go over our sources for the episode. Primarily the commentary by director Henry Selick and composer Bruno Colas.
I cannot pronounce his last name, but the commentary was fantastic.
Yeah, as well as making of featurettes. As well as a couple other interviews, Neil Gaiman, Travis Knight talk Coraline with EW's Cape Town Film Festival by Emily Rome of EntertainmentWeekly.com, and the exclusive interview, Coraline director Henry Selick by Katie Rich of CinemaBlend.com, which I'm finding a lot of these types of interviews are just like name, film, talk.
Yeah, gotta get to the point.
But one aspect I think that's interesting about Coraline, more so in a lot of these other movies where we've covered, where yes, they're based off of books. I think it's interesting that Coraline began way before the book was even finished. Selick met Gaiman and had read a unfinished part of the novel Coraline at the time.
Yeah, which honestly helps because even though at the beginning they didn't know this was going to be claymation, they knew that whatever they picked was going to take a hot minute to do.
Yes.
Especially because, I mean, this is fucking Neil Gaiman. Everything he does is trippy.
Yes and no, because the development process of this took quite a while because they originally wanted Coraline to be a live-action movie because Gaiman at the time was, or not Gaiman, Selick was under contract with Disney and he wasn't allowed to make animated films still.
Ooh.
And even through production, they kept getting pushed to do CGI over stop animation because this is 2009. CGI is still kind of the big trend. It's still kind of the newer, like somewhat perfected at this point because remember, Shrek was in 2001 and we're still in that era of like everyone still wants the next big Shrek. Yeah,
and on top of that, for the most part, traditional animations like hand-drawn or claymation, with the exception of Nightmare Before Christmas, all hadn't done super well. Whereas even the most mediocre CGI film had been very successful at box office. So a lot of this from the real high-ups was looking like, well, yeah, it'd be cool to do it live action, but like, what if we did it cheaper?
Yeah, exactly. So, and ultimately, they did choose stop motion because of how timeless The Nightmare Before Christmas looked.
Yes, and they got lucky that they had a lot of the same people working on it. They knew they were going to be able to capture that style again.
Yes, and I think it was a good choice because I have seen their short Moon Girl.
Yes.
Which came out in 2005, and oh boy, it's not a Scary Godmother bad, but it's not, I mean, granted, it's a short, but it's not nothing to really brag about either.
No, whereas we ended up with what a lot of people consider a claymation masterpiece with Coraline.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and also on top of that, the more that they were working through the script for Coraline, there's a lot of parts that just would be very difficult to portray uniquely without using claymation.
Exactly. And this ended up making Coraline very hard to sell And I like how the lead animator, Travis Knight, who is now one of the co-owners of Leica Studios, he stated, "It's got a female protagonist, so clearly boys will not go see a movie like this. But it's really scary, so girls aren't gonna be into that. And it's in stop motion. Nobody wants to see stop motion. So that was one of the hardest things to get this movie to even sell. And ultimately, Universal Pictures subsidiary Focus Features joined since Leica Entertainment was marketing it to other demographics such as animation fans and gaming fans, which I know with my buddy Krim that's a lot of the selling point of any animated movie is if it's stop motion, because he has a special soft spot for it. And I have a similar vein because I think stop motion is so cool because it takes so long and it's a different type of art form that we don't really see because it is easy to animate in a computer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like in our schooling where it's like, yes, I can make a cool render, but if you can make a cool model,
that is
that's
something special.
Else.
Oh yeah, no, super cool. But like, just like in the movie world, ain't nobody doing that anymore.
Yeah. And so this ended up becoming the start of Coraline. Also, if you do listen to the commentary, I do like that Selleck was very open about making the movie different from the book.
Yes.
And I'll get into Gaiman's thoughts at the end of the movie, or at the end of the review. But he did mention he tried holding on to as much of the book as he could possibly.
Yeah, and like I said, I've read the book, and I've read it both before the movie came out, and then I reread it years after the movie came out, because I'd forgotten it existed, to be honest with you. And yeah, it is one of those struggling things, because a lot of us who are fans of Neil Gaiman's work love it for his writing style, and for like how different his characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Coraline is a strong, independent character who don't need no sidekick. But she doesn't translate super great to movie, at least not by herself. So I get why there were changes from book to movie. I'm not going to spend a ton of time harping on them because while they're not, despite what other people say, life-changing, like the essence is still the same, honestly they're kind of two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like the movie, you should just go read the book, not expecting to reread the movie.
Yeah. And I think that's just something that we always try and strive to do on this podcast, is to separate the movie from the book, like Stephen King, because they are separate entities.
Yeah. And I do remember, like, especially a year or so after this movie came out, a lot of people had by then found Neil Gaiman and read Coraline and were disappointed that they weren't the same. But I think a lot of the fandom has turned around since then. Especially because a lot of us have had the maturity to, like, go back and reread Coraline. Because, yeah, it's targeted at a younger audience. But it's still Neil Gaiman. And while I think he did a good job with Coraline, it is a lot easier to understand when you've got an adult brain. There's a lot of subtleties in it that, like, not necessarily bad, not necessarily, like, inappropriate or anything. But it helps you realize, like, why certain changes were placed in the movie versus the book when you've sat with them a little while.
Okay, good to know. I'll get to it at some point, but it'll be a bit.
That's understandable.
And before we get into it, Chris, what is our first drink of 2023?
Well, we didn't want to drink mango smoothies because it is cold.
It's cold, and I don't think that'd sit well with our stomachs.
And also, I don't know how to drink a mango smoothie on a podcast.
Them thick.
Them thick. So instead, we have mango flavored beer.
Paleta de Mango by Rar & Sons Brewing Company.
Delightful.
It's a mango chili beer.
And it has ice cream on the side, so it's appropriate.
I did not realize that one. This was just in my fridge.
But you know what? It's perfect.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Delicious.
It's one of my favorites still, so. But, anywho, into Coraline.
Yes.
Which we get a cool little title card in opening credits that from the beginning feels very crafty, kind of like the direction that Nintendo took with Yoshi and Kirby in the recent games.
Yes.
So, I really like this intro, and also the opening with the doll coming through the window and something sewing with needle hands and ripping it apart and recrafting it with sawdust.
It also, the music is lighthearted, the color palette is really soft, we haven't reached any, like, hard decisions yet, but much like with his movie, much like with the movie 9, there are certain creepiness underlying to it, like the hands being very mechanical, but like also delicate and needly.
Yes.
And, like, there's technically nothing sinister happening, but you feel uneasy from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it sets the tone so perfectly for this, because on top of all that, the music from the second this movie starts is perfect. I freaking love this soundtrack.
I think it's a very good soundtrack. I'm not gonna lie, I did not pay a whole bunch of attention to it, which, honestly, I think it, in my opinion, in some ways that's a good sign of a soundtrack, is that
especially for a movie like this.
Exactly. It's just part of the environment, and it's not like standing out of like the Star Wars opening where it's like iconic because there's nothing else going on besides a text scroll.
Yes.
Yeah. Which Selleck stated that they wanted to use sawdust to make it feel disgusting, like kind of like they did with Sally and the leaves in The Nightmare Before Christmas.
We don't want it to be gory, but we also want to make sure that the audience knows from the beginning that, like, this is a replacement for gore.
Yeah, exactly. And even the room itself feels a little bit worn down, so we know it's a little bit of an older setting from the get-go, and we'll see that more in the house as well. Which, even after 13 years, this movie still looks solid.
Oh, this movie still looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain details that, like, the more you watch this, the more you have time to appreciate it. This movie ages beautifully.
Yes. And that, again, the
part
timelessness of stop animation.
Yeah. And, like, we've even talked about some ugly stop animation that still looks pretty good.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit of that, too, because this movie takes inspiration from old stuff.
It really does.
But the doll gets sent back out into space, and we open on Pink Palace Apartments with a man on a roof and movers moving stuff in, which I think there's a little nod. I forgot to look it back up, but the cabinet reminds me of a little bit of the one from Beauty and the Beast that they're moving in.
Oh, yeah, a little armoire.
Yeah, just a little bit. I don't know if it's 100% nod, but it could be.
Yeah, it's cute either way.
But it's a nice introduction to the neighbors and kind of makes the home feel a little dead end without, like, not being over the top. And, like, we get this feeling from the get-go that this isn't really the normal type of apartments because everything's ramshackle. We've got the tacked on fire egress stairs to the side.
Which aren't even the egress stairs. Those are the main access to the upstairs apartment.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and, like, I also like that without having to spend a great deal of time with exposition or dialogue, we can tell right off the bat that this apartment building isn't really meant for kids.
No.
Like, there's nothing nearby. We in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
Like, we're on the edge of town at best.
Well, and that's the thing. We don't even start off in the house. We get stuff of them moving in, but immediately we meet Coraline Jones, who is followed by a cat and begins exploring around the home itself.
Yeah.
Which, kind of glum and trashy looking.
Yeah, yeah.
Personally reminds me of when we first moved to Nebraska. My parents were not impressed by what they had seen previously because they had recently, once they found out, they rented About Schmidt, and that was shot in the winter, so of course it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And that's the same feeling that this movie has from the get-go, is we know it's not the lush green times, it's kind of wintry, fallish, maybe early spring.
This also drastically reminds me of my time living in some real slumlordy sort of places in college, where, like, there's, like, 8 apartments stuck into one building that definitely wasn't meant to hold apartments.
Yes.
Like, we're living in the basement. And it wasn't meant to be a lived-in basement.
That I feel that. I turned down a lot of apartments that were like that.
Yeah, like, me and my friends all lived in, never together, but, like, in a variety of places that feel strongly of the Pink Palace, both inside and out, because the yard's never kept, because, like, who's gonna do that?
It's also middle of winter.
It's also the middle of winter. Like, everything's partially dead. Like, maybe the landlord comes by to mow, but nobody's really, like, doing anything for the place.
No, not at all. It's just a stopping spot, it feels like.
Yes.
And, Coraline is trying to find a well through water scrying, but is attacked by a random kid named YB, which...
God fucking YB.
YB is just this weird, creepy kid that I knew kids like YB.
Yes.
I probably was like YB for quite a bit, too.
Yes, I had friends like YB. I understand YB's purpose in the film. I do not like YB. He's
fine.
Which is upsetting. Okay. He's fine because everyone else in this movie is perfect. And YB, while in a normal movie probably would be pretty interesting or good, even the cat is more interesting than YB.
YB in a way feels like an inserted character, kind of like the know-it-all kid from the Polar Express.
Yes, this does feel like he feels a lot like the know-it-all kid.
Yes, which, in our infinite wisdom and planning, we learned that Coraline is from Pontiac, Michigan. Yet another movie in our also ever infinite planning, and I'm so looking forward to 3 movies that we did not think about planning when we chose them for this year.
Yes.
But this one is also based on a book and tied to Michigan.
Yes.
Like the Polar Express.
Yes.
Yeah. But back to Coraline. I do like the fairy circle around the well. It makes it feel magical.
And also, I really appreciate that while it is there, and I love that she just accidentally stumbles into it, it's not a part, like, it's not a featurette of the film. Like, it's just kids with superstitions.
Yeah, which, that's honestly the thing I was just thinking of, like, why was she trying to find this well to begin with? Like, how does she know it's there?
She's bored, and she was pretending to be a water witch.
Alright, I'll take it. But something of note is that in this movie there is a lot of background movement, and that's something we don't see in The Nightmare Before Christmas. For example, in this particular scene, the grass moves with the wind in the background.
Yes.
And to me, this makes it feel more storybook instead of, like, the more static that we saw with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Sure, and for me, this puts Coraline very high on the stop motion, like, scale, because you have to remember, everything you see has to be hand moved for every single second that you watch.
Yes, and part of this was Susan Walton did the hair and made innovative ways to make it move.
Especially when you zoom up close.
Yes, and that's what helped keeps this movie alive, because in The Nightmare Before Christmas, if you look at the designs of most things,
there's not hair.
And if there is, it's very static hair, very much like Polar Express.
Yes. Or even some of those old Christmas stop motions that we talked about a few years back.
Yeah. And this is an aspect of why I think this movie and other movies like it work, is because Selleck tried to keep a fine line between action, or the live action and cartoon. So he was making it more like a traditional movie instead of like, oh, I'm making a cartoon.
It also helped a lot with the camera work. We get a lot of interesting shots that we don't normally see with claymation.
Yes. And also, part of this is because by this point I didn't realize how advanced we had gotten with prototyping and 3D printing. Coraline has 8,000 faces compared to the 800 for Jack Skellington.
Yes. And, like, a lot of us are familiar with the snapshot of the faces of Jack Skellington, like, being stuck on little pins, ready to be put onto the model. Coraline has so many, and, like, they kept adding more as the story needed them, partially because they had the ability to. They weren't stuck with, like, oh, well, we can't have her make that face because we didn't make it. It was more of like, oh, well, we can go ahead and make that.
Yeah.
So they ended up with a lot, which honestly helps a ton with how this movie expresses.
Exactly. And so it definitely, because I saw a little bit of how they did Kubo in the 2 strings, and Kubo's eye movements alone are their own puppet.
Yeah.
Like, they have their own movement, but it's only one eye they had to move. Coraline had a lot more advancement to that. And
she had a split face, so she had a bottom half and an upper half, so that they could mix and match more easily, and still ended up with an absurd amount of faces.
And we see that even though Coraline has the most, you see that level of expression across every single character in this movie.
You really do. It's part of the reason why I think claymation ended up being the correct path for this Neil Gaiman, like, retelling, because this manages to, like, portray a lot of very subtle emotions without having, like, any external, like, cues for the audience. Like, we can learn very quickly that, like, she finds YB annoying, but, like, not the worst. And she never actually says anything other than YB's kind of annoying.
Yeah. And honestly, you can't really replicate that feel, because I mean, we've seen the Lego movie, and more recently, in my mind, there was a movie I watched called As the God Wills, where there's a polar bear in it that's kind of stop animation.
Yes.
And I don't know if it really is. I'm pretty sure it's CGI. But it gets that feeling across, but not in the same way like Coraline does.
Yeah, there's a lot of very minute emotions that, like, because we have this very, like, fine, like, refined facials going on, you're able to see pretty quickly that, like, YB's hiding something. You can see very easily that YB's kind of, like, he knows he's a bit weird.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he knows he's awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, honestly, I don't think would come across if it was just, you know, a standard number of faces. That's really, like, detailed work.
And, Chris.
Yes.
Speaking of secrets.
Yes.
Guess who directed As the God Wills?
I don't know.
Takashi Miike.
Of course! Pause while we all take a shot together.
Cheers. My first new watch of 2023 is going to be another Takashi Miike movie.
Fucking course it is.
It's the Yakuza. He did a live action version of the Yakuza games.
You know what? I look forward to it. Don't get me wrong. Don't make me wrong. I love his work. I just find it very interesting that you managed to somehow bring him into everything.
Because he's done a lot of work.
That's fucking true.
The only reason I found out about this one is my buddy Calith is playing the Yakuza games, and
this is turning into the 5 degrees of Jesus.
Yes! No, our podcast is forever tied to this man.
Yeah, that's very true.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But we learned from YB that his grandmother won't rent the Pink Palace to families with kids, which, how did Coraline's family even manage this?
I don't know. My running favorite theory is that her parents legit forgot to mention they had her.
I probably agree with that. That's where I was guessing. But actually that ties in very well, because this movie has a bit of a heavier overtone to it now, watching it as a mature adult instead of just graduated high school.
Yes.
One of the themes about this movie is very much about being forgotten and neglected.
Yes. And it's something that as a high school student, you know that that's the theme, but you can't register the level of it until you're older, I don't think.
Or unless you've gone through that experience yourself. I never had that, so...
And it's the way that this movie handles it is very, like, that is not the main topic of the movie, which honestly is good because it means that this movie, like, is more accessible to a middle school or high school audience without them feeling like they're having to, like, think and feel their way through a movie.
Exactly. So it's one of those ones where if you look at everything, it does build up to that. And it's like, okay, you feel even worse for Coraline.
Yes, which is part of the reason this movie stands out as timeless for me, is like, there is that level of detail, there is that level of character building and depth that, like, we didn't need to put in. It was not needed at all. The movie could have continued on without it, but because it's there, because there's these hints at, like, oh, you're not the first family that was here, not just, like, all these other ones died, because that'd be suspicious. The cops would have been called. No. There have been happy families here. But the unhappy ones...
I don't know if there were happy families at this place.
There's some wonderful fan theories about this, which we will get into towards the end.
Okay. But also, Coraline in this moment is a bit mean as well.
She's 11, though, and 11-year-olds are assholes.
Yeah.
As a formal 11-year-old. Dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Preteen is the roughest age.
I don't know. I was obsessed with Pokemon at that time, still in medieval weaponry, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, she calls him, why were you born?
Rude, Coraline.
Very much so.
But also, like, a little bit projection there, Coraline.
A little bit. Just a bit. But I also like that YB still gets the last laugh because Coraline's stick that she's scrying with is poison oak.
Ah, damn it. I like how, and she pulls it out of a large bush, and it's definitely, like, the same stick as the rest of the bush, which means there is just a giant bush of poison oak growing in the front yard of this apartment building.
Again, neglected building.
Yes. I love it. No, I love it.
Yeah, it's It's the little things, because
It is.
this does tie in a little bit to the rest of the movie, too, which Salick points out as well.
Yeah.
Which Coraline returns home, and she tries to get a rise out of her mom with her injury.
Nothing.
Parents,
no sympathy.
No, parents are so focused on working on the Garden Living magazine, which honestly sounds hella boring.
As someone who, I personally am not subscribed to any magazines because my grandparents are subscribed to like 80 magazines, and every time we go to their house, we just get handed all of their magazines because they live out in the middle of nowhere. So like, it's not like there's anywhere readily accessible for them to either throw them away or donate them. And like, we've shown interest in magazines before, which of course turns into have 20 pounds of magazines. So I'm very well acquainted with many a different type of garden magazine. I have questions about their garden magazine, but I do like the level of like realism and detail that went into their background jobs. Because again, part of the joy of Coraline is like the insane amount of detail into the whole movie, and part of that is like the parents aren't just working on random work. Like, it is very like someone has done research into what it looks like to be a magazine writer.
Yes. No, just the level of detail, because the garden magazine also ties into like what Coraline ends up equipping herself with a little bit later on in the movie.
Yes. And also like the irony of like her parents write for a garden magazine while living in a place that, at least to Coraline, looks like it has no garden. Like, it looks absolutely in ruins.
Yeah.
She just touched an entire bush of poison oak in the front yard.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because the parents are writing for a magazine about gardening that's something about nurturing and taking care of something, but at the same time they don't seem too into it, and they're also not nurturing and taking care
of anything else in their life,
exactly.
including their daughter. The other like tiny detail that I love is like her parents aren't like generic parent, even though they are sad and tired and honestly look like they're on the verge of death, especially her father. But they clearly have two very different like personality sets that even though they are tired, even though they are running on empty, are still shining through. Like, her dad is clearly the jokester. He tries to make a few quips with her, even though he is exhausted and very busy. Her mom's clearly the more, like, level-headed and reasonable one. She's trying to be very serious. And I also like the details put into the parents that aren't directly stated. The father types with 2 fingers.
Yep.
And the mother wears a neck brace, and I don't think it's ever directly stated in the film why. She just has it.
No, they do.
They do?
Yeah, so...
It is very brief.
Yeah, in this part, she says that they moved because of an accident. Which later on we find out was a car accident, which it's a very small part right after they've gone clothes shopping.
Oh, that's right.
It's a very small
like
bit.
Far into the movie for like why mom is wearing a neck brace, because she's wearing it from the get-go.
Yeah, because she only says an accident at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot left up to the imagination, but not in the same way as like, oh, they're blank slates. There's just a lot that we're not directly told.
Yes.
Which I love. I love that about movies.
Yeah, and in between meeting the mom and dad, and also the mom has a more modern computer, the dad's got an old computer from like the 90s, it's 80s.
It's got like a floppy disk drive in the front.
Yes. But we get a little bit of Wybie giving the doll from the intro that he says he found in his grandmother's trunk to Coraline.
Yes, which, while I don't love Wybie, he's not my favorite character, I do see why he's in the movie from a storytelling point. This adds a lot of mystery as to who Grandma is and why Wybie doesn't live here too. Why does she live way over there? Yeah,
it's also, he's main in driving the back lore.
Yes.
Or certain parts of the back lore.
Which is honestly helpful for a movie. Back lore is one of those things that, like, usually you only see in stupidly long movies, like Lord of the Rings, where it's...
Dune.
Yeah, where it's there, but we had to get there by driving around the block a few times.
Yes.
This works in a really quick and efficient way, even though, yeah, Wybie's the weak character, it does add a lot.
Yes. Because when Coraline does go to bug her dad, she is being very desperate in need of attention, and her dad's like, go on, explore. It's a 150-year-old house. There's got to be something to do.
Which, you know, you can kind of see, like, her dad's usually the one who probably plays with her, or is at least the more engaging of the two parents, and he quickly comes up with a game. And, like, yeah, he's dead tired and busy, and it's a shit game, but, like, he did come up with one.
Find 10 things about this house because you can't go outside. It's raining.
Which I find it interesting that the director purposefully picked this location to set it in, because the book's English and set in England, and he's like, no, we're gonna set it here because winter's here. Suck dick.
Exactly.
It's always raining, it's always foggy, it's beautiful the rest of the year, but yeah, two gardening magazine people, this isn't where you want a winter.
Well, and Coraline also mentions in this part that they don't even garden anymore either.
Yeah, she's like setting up seed packets in the windowsill. She's being so sad. But also, like, she's an 11-year-old kid who, in theory, could be entertaining herself.
Yes, well, so there's a couple things here. So, one, Coraline does go exploring the house.
And she finds all of the, in true preteen fashion, finds all the dumb things about the house.
Yes, and she goes with the doll, which is kind of cute that she's kind of treating it like a person.
Yeah.
Unfogging the greenhouse window to have it look out with her. And but also, the house feels like a reflection of Coraline herself because it's also in disrepair.
Yes.
Carpet's not in the right spot. There's bugs everywhere. The drain doesn't work, and it soaks her.
It reminds me of them beautiful slumlord apartments from college.
Mm-hmm.
You open the bathroom, bugs scatter, everything creaks, all the windows leak. There's like a spot on the ceiling, and you're like, I don't know if that drips or not.
Yep.
It might.
Which, I mean...
But also, the detail in this house, from the idea of it being a miniature, just absolutely makes me fall in love with the ugly, normal side of this home.
Yeah, well...
Like, it's not magical. It is incredibly dull and flat and boring.
Yes, but part of that, too, is Coraline doesn't have any video games.
She has nothing to do. They just moved here, and, like, nothing's unpacked.
Yeah, which I'm not sure what year this movie's set in, because the mom has a modern-ish looking laptop.
She would have probably at least had access to, like, Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly when this is supposed to be, but, like, that feels about right. And also, like, she's a kid. They did move from somewhere else. It's not like they found her on the ground outside.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that the only toys that she seems to have unpacked are probably the ones that she didn't actually pack. They've, like, in, like, the top box or in the backpack.
Or the toys she has, what we see later on, are just kind of, like...
They're memorable toys.
They're memorable toys, but they also feel like they're just her childhood toys that she hasn't...
let go of.
Exactly.
No, I completely agree, because, like, all of them are meant for kids of a younger age. There's nothing really for an 11-year-old to do. There's not even a coloring book for this poor kid.
No.
She's bored out of her mind.
And I felt this.
Oh, me too. Oh, me too!
But eventually, while exploring the house, the doll does lead Coraline to a locked door, this is the first part where things are feeling a bit off.
Yes. I fucking love this small door, because this door is based off of a real door that the director grew up with.
Yeah, it was in his grandmother's house.
And she had a big old house, and up in the very top room, which probably was originally like attic space that got turned into a room, they had this teeny tiny little 2x2 door. And I've been in homes with these before, and they are so intriguing. And the director mentioned, like, he was never allowed behind it, no one even talked what was behind it, and from an adult perspective, as someone who's, like, crawled behind those doors, that's because there's nothing behind the door. It's either literally boarded over, like in Coraline, or it's just opening to attic space or into the AC unit so that you can maintenance something.
Exactly. And it's often, like, it's that childlike mentality of...
But it could lead somewhere cool.
Exactly. Or it's the same mentality of, like, not being afraid of the dark itself, but what could be in the dark.
Yes. And also, because we already know that there is an underlying sinisterness to this movie, this is where I think the Alice in Wonderland vibes start bubbling through. And, I mean, on top of the movie being a huge inspiration, the book itself really, like, even if you're not a big fan, there's always that seed of, like, the Alice in Wonderland styling. Yeah. And, like, questioning and wondering and magic.
any movie with a magic door or portal to somewhere else is kind of an Alice in Wonderland. Like,
Yes.
when you came over, I'm watching The Last Starfighter.
Yeah, technically has nothing to do with it, but
But Alice in Wonderland, like, he gets a high score at the arcade, and a dude shows up to take him to a magical space world.
yeah, and even though they are not the same, they're not part of the same world, they're not necessarily even directly based off of each other, because you have that underlying knowledge of how the Sinister world works, or how the theory should work, you're already put on edge. You already know that there is more to this door than there should be.
Technically, Galaxy Quest is that, too.
And also, this door reminds me hardcore of Pan Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And, like, that holds a sweet spot in my heart of just beautiful horror magic.
Yes.
And I love a good horror magic. So, you're already on edge because this door, it's wallpapered over. As an adult watching it, you're like, yeah, no, this is a normal door. But they will always hold that mystery. Like, we've been on scope trips to a freaking Target or Walmart, like big box stores, and there'll be that little access door, and you're like, what's behind the access door? And it's just a panel. You know it's just a panel. You have the blueprints, but it could be.
Or you open it, it's like, well, that's not to code.
My favorite's the one that's like 20 feet in the air. There's no way to get to it. It's a full-size door, too, and you're like, what's up there? And they're like, we don't know.
No one's been up there since the olden days.
We've had a few of those. Out of all of the times there's been one time there was something interesting behind it. The rest of the times, it was just bad remodel.
I luckily work on small stores, so there's nothing ever like that for me.
There was one time there was a man living behind the door. But out of, like, probably 100 times we have, like, scoped a store and there's a door. And, like I said, out of 100 times, it's always either nothing, or it's just someone forgot to remove the door during a remodel. But that one time, there was a person back there! And so it does. It holds a level of mystery and intrigue.
Yeah.
And, like, it's really clever.
Well, and the way that you go about this, too, is there's a few things that's weird about this part.
Yes.
So, Coraline goes to bug her mom about it. One, I love the moms. I love Mulch Mug.
I do, too.
The mom is so annoyed at this point. She goes to grab a key. She goes to grab a key from a drawer full of probably like 20, 30 keys.
Yes.
And grabs the only button key?
Yes.
Like, why is that the key that you chose for this?
Okay, so I love the mystery and intrigue and detail of this being a button key. And I totally understand why, from a movie writing direction, why you would be like, no, we're not taking all the fucking keys to the tiny door.
Okay.
But as someone who has lived in a house with so many 100-plus-year-old locks, none of them match. None of them have the same key. There's just in our house, we had literally a coffee tin of keys. And you took the coffee tin with you and you'd try every single fucking one. Because none of them are labeled. Half the time you don't need into the tiny door. So, either you just don't know which door locks what. You don't know what key does what.
Fascinating.
So, I 100% believe the drawer full of keys. Especially since they just moved, they haven't cleaned out the drawer. 100%, like, the landlord or the last person who lived there just went, keys, and closed the door.
Interesting.
Or they were on the counter and mom just swept them into the drawer. 100% believe that. The fact that the mom knows which key goes to this door... No. That is magic. That is beautiful, precise movie magic.
Maybe she picked it because it is the odd one out of them, because it has like a physical button on it. It doesn't look like a normal key.
No, I agree. I fully agree. I love the detail of it. I love the, like, symbolism of the key. There's no way this woman knows what key this is, because I guarantee you she doesn't know what half those keys go to.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I bet you at least 2 of the keys don't go to anything. And there's going to be 5 doors that none of those keys go to. And one of them's going to be kind of important. One of the doors is, like, something that you kind of would like to lock, like the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's just how it is with old houses.
Yeah.
I still don't know how to unlock one of the closets, so if we ever lock someone in there, they're gone. Gotta break them out.
Remy?
No, he won't fit!
That's a tiny-ass door, then.
It is a very small door. Someone hand-custom made this tiny door.
One thing to note as well that I caught on after multiple rewatches is the doll is always watching. It doesn't matter which scene it's in.
Yes.
The doll at some point is pointed at the action of what's going on.
And it's never, like, Coraline putting her down like a camera. She always manages to fall to Lee looking at Coraline or looking at the whole room.
Or just sat down and the head's flopped a little bit in one direction.
Like, the doll never seems to be alive, which is a really nice magic touch. Where, like, the doll is clearly not the enemy, but she cannot be trusted.
Exactly. And specifically, the one part where we do see the doll not really move, but we see that is leading Coraline to the door itself.
Exactly.
But what is behind said door?
Nothing. Bricks.
Yep. Like and we cut to dinner where we set up more of the family dynamic.
I like the gelatinous mush that they have for dinner.
Try the gray stuff, it's the beast.
I would prefer the gray stuff, because that's probably foie gras.
Foie gras is good.
It is. This looks like when you accidentally order the wrong thing at, like, a Thai restaurant, and they're like, are you sure? And you're like, yeah, I want it. And then you get it, and you're like, oh, I ordered the wrong thing.
Yeah.
This feels like that. Because this doesn't even feel like, oh, we just had moving stuff left over. Mm-hmm. This feels like, I'm trying a new recipe.
Oh, I've had those nights.
Yeah.
That's how Sunday's gonna be for you guys.
Exciting.
But, I mean, it looks awful, but you know the dad's trying his best. The mom is obviously not... Yeah, the mom's not the stereotypical cooking housewife type.
No, but, like, yeah, you do have to give the dad some credit. The director mentioned, like, neither of her parents are meant to be able to cook.
Mm-hmm. Dad's the slightly better cook.
Slightly better cook, which I appreciate, but I don't 100% get that from this movie. I fully believe that, like, dad can very well cook and, like, either didn't have the ingredients required or, like, wasn't paying attention while he was cooking. Because, again, the man looks like he's dead on his feet.
Yeah.
And so, like, I get what the director was trying to go for. I don't believe it, but I still think the idea works.
Yeah. Well, and they do mention that the mom does the housework your dad cooks.
Yes. And her mom seems to be able to make a mean cup of instant coffee. Yeah. It's like the only thing we see her mom make.
Yeah. And from here, we do get a cute little transition to bedtime with Coraline in her simple room. Coraline missing her friends, whose middle school mascot is the Hubcaps.
Good for them.
Again, doll sat down on the chair next to her, and its head's tilted ever so slightly towards Coraline.
Just in case. You gotta be able to see.
And so, at night, the little door opens, and some paper mice squeak out, leading Coraline to the door that is now open to a tunnel.
The paper mice are so beautiful.
Yes.
So hypnotizing.
The mice specifically were inspired by George Pal's Puppet Tunes, which were a series of animated puppet films from the 1930s and 1940s. One thing I will say, I have looked up a handful of these.
Yes.
Some of them are, blackface.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's some of them don't fit with modern standards. So just a heads up, if you do look up his stuff, there are some that are interesting. He did some commercials and stuff too, but there's a handful that are very racist.
Oh, yeah. With that said, though, a lot of the inspiration was mostly for the movement and styling. The mice themselves look like they're based off of, like, an Australian kangaroo mouse.
That's exactly what they are based off of.
Which means, of course, they're fucking adorable.
Or a gerboa, one of those two.
One of the two. I'm going with the kangaroo mouse because, you know, they do gymnastics. And I like the idea of them screaming silently into the night.
Yes. But also, one thing that I noticed while watching this part is this house has old radiators like the Polar Express.
Yes, but again, with this being a super old house, which does look like the landlord, probably in, like, knowing from the clues that we have, especially towards the very end of the movie, probably grandma who owns the house, she physically can't keep up with it.
No.
But with it being an old house, I like the details that were put in to, like, really enforce, like, no, this could potentially be a nice place, but, like, it's outdated as heck.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's a part later on, I know I wrote it in my outline, because Coraline goes to bed and clicks a button on the wall, and the wireway
is still, like on the outside of the wall.
It's on the outside of the wall, but when she goes to bed in the dream world, it's a pulley lever from above.
Yes.
Also, speaking of the little details, this tunnel feels otherworldly, partly because...
Wonderful.
You can also see the back of the 2x4 wall.
Mm-hmm.
Which... It's nitpicky.
It is nitpicky. Say it.
Brick is a very odd choice to block up the 2x4 wall.
Yes, it does. Yes, this feels odd.
Overkill for what it is.
Yeah, but I kind of love it. Because from like a child's point of view, like that feels permanent. That doesn't feel like something you could break down.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you just framed or made another 2x4 frame and then tack chipboard up to it.
Exactly. No, this feels much more magical.
Yes. And it does, because Coraline breaks on through to the other side and we meet the other mother and other father.
Which, of course, are charming and magical as fuck.
Yes, one, I love the oven mitt. It's super cute.
The background details of Otherworld are fantastic, because while technically Otherworld House and Normal House are two separate models, especially because they squish Normal House to make it feel flatter. Mm-hmm. The amount of very subtle but important decorations in Otherworld to the house make it so much more charming. Like, of course, yes, there's the furniture that everyone remembers. It's alive, says the bugs. But just like the addition of curtains makes the home feel so much better. There's no curtains in Coraline's version or in the real world. There's no extra lights. There's nothing on the counter. There's just boxes.
Well, and here's the thing, too. So, what we get introduced, one, everything, like you said, looks a little different. Namely,
so fucking cute.
Something about the eyes are a little different.
A little, but I kind of like them.
The button eyes. The other people have button eyes.
Pretty much everything minus Cat in Otherworld has button eyes.
Yes. But one thing that, and this is very important because this world starts to reflect what Other Mother thinks Coraline wants.
Yes.
So the very first thing that we see with Other Mother is Other Mother's cooking.
And she's
right from the get-go.
And she's not just cooking anything. She's cooking like a traditional roast.
Yes.
Chicken, there's gravy and mashed potatoes, all sorts. Big-ass dinner.
Yes, which I think, not explicitly stated, ties into the rest of the movie that maybe Coraline's mother can actually cook, but father's taken over the duties while mom's not doing so good.
Very possible.
So I think...
Missing mom's cooking.
Exactly. So that's where we're first introduced to her like that. As well as when we first get introduced to Other Father, he's very energetic.
So playful.
His filing boxes are kind of teetering a bit.
And he's clearly more creative than we've gotten to see so far. Mm-hmm. He's got a musical talent that we haven't seen at all. Which
also kind of leads to that, which ties into the mom. Like, maybe the mom is a better cook. And maybe the father really likes music.
Yeah, maybe he can play the piano really well.
But he just doesn't have the time or really anything to do right now. And just the gardening magazine isn't their passion. It's just something that pays the bills.
I love this theory. The other thing that, starting now in the movie, that is a fun detail to watch, is as the movie goes from here on forward, the house itself slowly turns more and more buggy.
Yes.
So, like, the wallpaper now does not have bugs on it. But once we get farther and farther, little teeny tiny details will slowly change from whatever Other Mother thinks Coraline likes, like a chicken mitt, to slowly be more and more beetles and bugs and insects. Partially
because Coraline has a lot of insect-shaped things in her bedroom.
That she does.
Yes. Yeah. This movie has so many little details that just...
it's fantastic.
Yes. From here, we cut to fancy dinner.
Beautiful dinner.
Rotating trays that almost kind of feel like a presentation of, like, you do remember those old dessert displays that were just, like, constantly rotating at the front counters and stuff?
The pie cabinet that constantly spun? Oh, hell yeah.
That's exactly what this entire meal feels like.
It's a show.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a presentation because also it's cake time.
Oh, and there's a literal gravy train on the table. So cool.
Yep. There is a mango smoothie
There's
dispenser.
there's a whole variety of smoothies that she can pick from and have with dinner.
Yes.
And she doesn't even have to finish her dinner. She just gets cake.
Well, and here's the thing. So this is why I like the pacing of this movie too, because we get the little bit of of other mother.
She's a little impatient.
Tapping her fingers right from the get-go, which throws Coraline off a little bit. And she's like, I think maybe I should get going. And she's like, oh, but we haven't had dessert. That's when we get the cake. Because, or no, she's like, I want to go out. Oh, but there's a storm. What storm? And then you hear the lightning crack outside.
Yeah.
The lightning itself is a claw hand.
Creepy hands.
Yeah. But what I like about this too is it's so opposite and jarring that even Coraline is cautious. And it's a good way to make her not come across as just like a dumb child.
Yes. And without also making her too smart.
Exactly.
Coraline is one of the very few instances in movies that I 100% believe that this is an 11-year-old child.
Because Selleck wanted her to still be a kid, but only a warrior when she had to be one.
And even then, she is still a child.
Yes.
Like, she doesn't magically turn into, like, Hunger Games warrior.
Yeah, she's no Kubo.
No. God bless Kubo.
I love the art style of Kubo,
though. Oh, I do too, but that poor child grew up way too fucking fast. That poor kid.
He had to.
He did.
Coraline didn't have that option, so.
No, but she did, just in a different way.
Yes. But it's bedtime, and
she gets fully tucked in.
A more put-together room, the toys are alive. Hi, Coraline.
And not just that, but even the toys that talk to her are the ones that Coraline recognizes and knows. But in the background, like on the floor and the bookshelves, there are books, there's paper on the ground, there's more stuff in this room. Not just decorations, but like clearly stuff that would be interesting and fun for a kid.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing, is there's so much life to this movie. And I'll get into that in just a little bit. Because it's bedtime for Coraline. And
you might have had the same experience.
Okay.
As Army kids, the concept of both parents sitting down to put you to bed, that would have been a weird fucking phenomenon in my house.
My parents did from time to time.
It would have been like a, hey, special evening. Happy birthday, kitty. Merry Christmas. Don't get back up. Or like, you're sick. Like, it would have been a special occasion for both parents to come sit down, fully tuck you in, and then sit there and wait for you to fall asleep.
Wait to fall asleep is the weird part for me.
Yeah. Like, this is a level of attention that, like, a kid who is desperate for any kind of affection would be looking for.
Yeah. Granted, I could be wrong too, and my mom will very much tell me I was wrong.
I have no doubt that we've just totally thrown both of our sets of parents under the bus. I'm going to get a phone call later immediately being like, how dare you? We tucked you in every night.
That's my mom's biggest complaint about this. You only talk about movies that throw me under the bus. I'm like, you had some lapses in parenting, but those define me. So.
You know what? One of these days we'll do her favorite movie.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that sometime.
Right after we do her least favorite.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah, we'll find one.
But there's also a line that the other mother says in this that is just so creepy.
Yeah.
See you soon from the other side.
Yes. The other thing that I really, really like about this storytelling, and part of the magic of this, is there is not hard rules.
No.
We come into the world via magic door. We leave by just going to sleep.
Yes.
Like, that is beautiful, because that beautifully blends what is real, what is not. It adds a layer of mystery without too much of the whole stupid inception, like, was it all in her head? It for a very brief moment, you're like, yeah, maybe it was. But then immediately we get our answer with her hand being better.
Yes, I forgot to bring that up. There's the magic mud that the other mother puts on her hand.
So get rid of that poison oak, which, as someone who, I personally cannot get poison oak, ha ha ha.
What?
I'm not allergic.
Huh.
I don't react to poison ivy, I don't react to poison oak, I also don't react to icy hot.
You mutant freak.
I am a mutant freak. My mother, on the other hand, got all of that problem. So I can testify that poison oak, especially day one getting it, that sucker either spreads or is not going away the next day. So I know the director mentioned, like, oh, it's kind of a hint, like, was it real, was it not? Because, like, maybe it went away on its own. No one with poison oak on their hand from day one wakes up the next day and it's completely gone.
Well, no, he said specifically in the commentary that this is supposed to be her concrete evidence that this was real.
Yes, and I 100% buy it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, this solidifies that Other Mother is fully real. I love that we aren't guessing for very long.
Yeah, because Coraline wakes up in her drab and dreary house, which, one thing to note, since now we've seen both sides of the world, the color palette was inspired by the concept art that was done by Tadahiro Uesugi, who also, by the way, worked on as a visual development artist for Luca, as well as Big Hero 6, and I guess he's been inspired by American 50s and 60s illustrations. So
you can see the 50s and 60s illustrations definitely in Other Mother World with the color palette, especially because there's some scenes that are a little bit glowy. There's some nice like pops of color. Honestly, I feel like both color palettes are absolutely beautiful and do a great job storytelling.
Mm-hmm. And this is also the scene where I wrote down in my notes about the lighting.
Yes. And also, like, while Normal World is drab and dreary, it's not so washed out that you feel like there's a filter on.
No.
Like, it just feels like it's run down.
Exactly.
Which is a really clever way of doing it without being too, like, in your face.
Mm-hmm. Coraline goes to see her folks. They're still the same. And Coraline is then pawned off to the downstairs neighbors, but not before finding a package that is supposed to be for the upstairs neighbor, Bobinski. Which Selleck mentioned the reason he didn't introduce the neighbors right away is so that way we could get to know the family, which is a good way in my opinion. We do see a little bit of the neighbors before getting in. Specifically, we saw Bobinski on the roof.
I also think it also adds a layer of, like, distrust to the neighbors. If they had been very friendly and we met them, like, when they were moving in, or even if they were helping them move in, I, from a kid's point of view, would have been like, oh, I've met these people. They are not weird. They are not strangers. But because we take time to meet them one at a time, and, like, we have to go and introduce ourselves to the upstairs neighbor, like, they feel more sinister.
Or they feel more, it makes the world feel more deep instead of like, oh, here's this character, here's that character. Coraline is forced to go and explore this person.
Exactly.
Kind of is in the same way, like, in, like, world building, Selleck talks about the casting of Dakota Fanning as Coraline.
Yeah.
And that he built everyone and their voices around Coraline, which was no small feat in its own right, because they started recording Fanning when she was 9, and by the time they finished / release, she was 12.
Which, that's a pretty big age. Like, that's a lot of growing during those years.
And especially for a young girl,
it's hard to keep your voice sounding the same all that time.
It'll change real quickly. It's not like guys where, like, our voice won't really change until we're in our early teens.
Or you can at least edit out, like, some of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I do like Bobinski's sign up to his house.
I love Bobinski's sign.
And the egress just feels so scabbed onto the rest of the building.
Oh, it doesn't even feel like it's been put on correctly, which I love.
No, not
This does not feel up to code.
Which, of the characters in this entire movie, Bobinski is the oddest design character.
I agree, especially because he's the only one who's not normal skin colored.
No.
He's blue, which I can get behind a weird colored character. That's usually not a problem. It's just that he's the only blue character. And the director's reasoning was because I liked it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he goes, but he's also outside in a wife beater and shorts in winter, and wouldn't you be cold? And I'm over here in the Midwest being like, it's not even snowing. No.
But real quick trivia about Bobinski. He is voiced by none other than Ian McShane, who is the father of Hot Rod.
Of course.
Yeah, or the stepfather in Hot Rod. That's the better term, stepfather. Which, fun fact for Christian, he's also never seen Coraline, so he has zero care.
Okay.
But I still think it's fun and interesting. We'll have to do Hot Rod at some point.
Definitely.
But the mouse circus is kind of drab as well.
Also questionable on whether or not there is a real mouse circus.
I believe there is.
I believe there are mice.
Are they a circus, though? Or are they like the pet mouse at Ben Kissel talked about for like years at last podcast on the left, that he just leaves leftovers out for.
It's just an infestation that he feeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But doesn't go to any of the rest of the house.
Yes. I very much see this man as like the same sort of person who like claims that they have like a high obedience dog and it's just a normal dog. And you're like, yes. Very good. It can sit sometimes.
So many people's dogs.
Yes. So I imagine that these mice are probably not an infestation. I hope. I'm hoping that they're not an infestation. And that he just has pet gerbils. Or mice.
Mice. We'll give them mice.
Or even pet rats, because rats are good pets.
I know a couple people who have rats.
Yeah, I know several people who have rats. They are all very sweet and affectionate. So, like, yes. And, like, later on we learn that there are rats. So, like, I would not be surprised if he does actually have pet rats. They are not trained to balance on small balls and play trumpets.
No. Also, I love that he gives, like, he's being very secretive, but he's very nice once he realizes, it's a young kid.
Yes.
Here, have a beat. It make you grow big.
He feels like he's trying to be friendly, but he's kind of scary.
Sorry, I forget. In Russian, it's, you don't, there's no, like, you. It's, like, eat, beat, grow big.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Yes. I love that, like, from an adult perspective, I can see him trying to be somewhat friendly. But when I was a kid and I watched this, he felt so freaking creepy. And I could not take my eyes off of his shoulder hair. Which made me not trust him. As an adult, I'm like, yeah, the man's got shoulder hair, me too. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I like his character choices because he feels secretive, he feels kind of gross.
He feels very KGB, like, secret Russian, like
he fled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
like, we don't really know anything about him character-wise, not at least not real-world version. But, like, there's enough presented that even a kid could make up theories about him. And that's what, like, really makes him a great character.
And great about all the characters in this movie, too.
Yes. Granted, though, I think the sisters or the two downstairs probably have the most worked out because the director thought about them the most.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, again, we're taking this from a book, and while he didn't want it to be exactly like the book, he did want to honor and, like, try and keep the themes of them similar. So instead of having an Eastern acrobat, he had the Russian guy who had moved to America. But we do need two theater persons.
Also, on that note, I didn't know that that's how that book was written. Very much better cultural sensitivity from...
Well, you also have to remember that, like, it's written in Britain for British by a British person.
Yeah, I know.
So, like, when they say Eastern, they literally mean anyone east of Britain.
Which, if you go far enough east, it's...
everyone.
West. Yeah. Exactly. But as Coraline leaves, Bobinski drops down, and Coraline almost pulls 1,000 years of death with her shears.
Oh, God, he comes so close to death. This man is lucky he has such tall legs.
Yes, which... this is a good part in the movie, too, because one, it introduces really Coraline using the shears as a tool.
And a weapon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Binsky's there because the Mushka gave him a warning that Coraline's in danger.
He does have pets.
Which is a good way of oddly introducing that the animals know things that the people don't.
Yes.
Which we'll see multiple times later on.
Oh, yes.
And so Coraline dons her Japanese schoolboy cap.
Which is literally only in the movie because the director's son, in real life, would not wear his as a child.
Yeah, the director bought one for his son while he was on, like, some press release for Nightmare Before Christmas, and the son wouldn't wear it. Which, to be fair, my mom always tried us getting to wear lederhosen. None of us would.
Oh yeah, no, my mother tried so hard to make me wear many a thing. And I wore a Pocahontas costume for a full year. Just that.
How could you?
It was like from the Dollar Tree too. It was like made out of paper.
Like Adam Savage's Jaws costume.
Oh yeah, just like that. So like I totally understand the concept of like a parent being like, yeah, the only reason this hat is in here is because my fucking son wouldn't wear his, and I needed at least one of my children to wear it.
My mom got our neighbor, or actually Friends in Nebraska's kids to wear of the lederhosen.
See, eventually someone will wear them.
But it's off to see the downstairs neighbors.
Who are my favorite.
Which there's a nice little touch of fog rolling down the stairs.
It's really pretty fog, and I had always thought the fog was real. Because, this is claymation, so everything is real so far. But no, the fog was added post-production, and I think it looks stellar. Like, you cannot tell.
Yeah, okay, interesting. I don't know, I didn't really remember them talking about that, though.
It is very briefly mentioned, and the only reason I was paying attention to it was because the fog in this movie stands out to me really hard. The rain and the fog are, some of my favorite tropes in, the emo sad kid movies. Is, they're all set in sad, soupy places.
Yeah.
Which, here...
It's Washington.
Yeah. And growing up in the Midwest, my only,
Sorry, Oregon.
Yeah. Growing up in the Midwest, my only, reference points is freezing cold and windy, but no snow. Or the Satan's left armpit. Hot.
Phoenix.
Yeah. And wet. We're hot and moist here.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, I love the aesthetic. I've, again, never lived in something like that. So, to me, it doesn't feel sad and dreary. It just feels, magical and otherworldly, especially mist and fog. Love it. Seems amazing. It was one of those memories from this movie that stuck out to me was, watching the fog roll through and under the house. And so learning that the fog wasn't done live, it was put in afterwards to help make sure that it moved with the characters correctly.
Okay. That makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still a cool effect.
It looked, and you didn't know. You can't tell.
And it's a small thing that...
It adds a lot.
But it also pays off later on because, if you're not paying attention or looking at the background, it's very easily missable because it's small little streams coming down the stairs.
Exactly.
But downstairs, we are introduced to Madame Spink and Forcible, a pair of has-been starlets who don't agree on anything.
I love them so fucking much.
Voiced by Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French, which between the two of them, we've covered a fair amount of, or what we would have known them from.
Yes we have.
Saunders is the fairy godmother in Shrek 2.
Yes, she is.
And French is Mrs. Beaver from the Chronicles of Narnia, as well as the fat lady in painting from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
For those of you who are Harry Potter fans like myself, that is the second version of the fat lady.
Yes.
The first version was a different woman. But yes, I love both of these characters. I love who acts them. I love everything about them. Their apartment is dark and dingy because they're in the basement. There's nothing to, you can't properly see anything. But you can see that, the top hasn't been, there's no ceiling. It's just basement ceiling.
Yeah. It's
open
ductwork, yeah.
And, beams and stuff. And they have a whole wall of their dead dogs, which I fucking love.
I even have written in my notes that the exposed ductwork is a nice touch.
It is! Because, especially as
no one looks up. That's the thing.
No one looks up. And if you've lived in these shitholes, then you know that the ceilings in a basement apartment is always fucking weird. It's always either exposed and kind of gross, and you can just straight up see the people above you half the time. Especially if it's an older home and they've got the original hardwood floors up there. You can just full on see straight up that sucker. You better hope nobody drops hot soup on your head. Or it's that shitty ACT ceiling and it's way too low. It's right at 7'6".
Yeah.
Or I was even in an apartment that it was straight on 7-foot ceilings. All the doors were short. We had a tall friend who was living down there with her short friend who was living down there. And the tall friend legit could just couldn't even put her arms above her head.
It's a tall woman.
She was very tall. But that's the level of detail that adds so much caricature to this movie without explicitly stating anything. These two women are has-been actresses and they live in a shit apartment. Out of these three apartments, this is the worst one.
And Bobinski's looks pretty shitty too.
It does look shitty, but at least from the outside there's hope that there's more rooms up there because you can see kind of the layers.
No, but Bobinsky is straight up in that attic, that leftover attic space.
Yeah, I have a friend who's lived in the leftover attic space. Was it weird as hell? Yes. And he lived in Washington. And so we got to go see this weird attic space with a tiny door, now that I think about it. Which legit just opened up to the outside. Like, it didn't even go to the attic space. You could just throw stuff.
The second escape that you need to have it be a livable space.
I think that's actually what it was.
No, that's 100% what it was.
I think there's no ladder or anything, but I think that's what it was, like, coded as.
Yeah, that's why bedrooms have to have a window, so that way you have two means of escape.
There wasn't a window in the bedroom, so yeah, that's exactly what that fucking door was. But, like, he had, like, his main space, it was, like, short ceilings that, like, slanted and everything. He had tiny, free little windows, just like Bobimski's house. And, like, yeah, it was charming and sweet, and, like, yeah, it was a shit show. But it wasn't basement shit show. With roommates.
To be fair.
And dogs.
I assume this basement is very damp, and they have a mold problem every winter.
I guarantee you they have a mold problem. Because you mentioned earlier that one of the nice little touches is Coraline wiping the fog off the windows.
Yep.
And if you watch the windows in the background, like, most of the windows in this house are foggy. Yeah. And leaky.
Now that I think about it.
And, like, I live in an older home, and my one-pane windows, they 100% frost over and fog over.
Yeah,
I run the dehumidifier all the fucking time. And I don't live in the rain.
Oh, and I don't think I remember seeing, like, really, like, ceiling fans or, like, some type of central air system for the main house either.
If there is central air, it's, like, post-put in.
Very minimal.
And I guarantee you it's, like, 40 or 50 years old.
I can see it.
It's on its last leg, air conditioning. If there is any.
Yeah.
And it's definitely baseboard heating throughout. Or radiator heating. It's not central heat.
No.
Not in that house.
Not at all.
So there's a good possibility that these two old women have no heat down there. They're living off of their 3 dogs' heat. Well, and basement.
They're all covered in, like, furs and stuff, too, so...
But also they're old ladies. It's really... But the character designs of these two old women. Can we talk about them for a second?
Tiggle bitties.
Oh, tiggle bitties! Which I love, partially because they talk about how the character models were made and how Bobinski's model was so top-heavy with his big beer gut, he had to have extra arms holding him up, or, like, full on a hand holding him so he wouldn't fall over. And then they talk about these two women, and they're like, yeah, the short one's face, instead of being made out of the standard, like, hard plastic or clay, we made it out of rubber with stuff behind it so we could squish it.
Ah.
So that's why she looks really jelly. Like, her face is squishy.
That makes a lot more sense.
And then the other one is much more traditional claymation modeling, which is why she looks much more stiff.
Oh, like she's had too much liposuction and Botox. Yeah,
and also definitely a boob job. They're way too high up there for how old she is.
They
are standing.
As a man who appreciates bosom,
yeah,
it's that level of bosom where it's like, you must be so uncomfortable.
As someone who's spent a good bit of time in the women's locker room changing for YMCAs as both a lifeguard and a regular attendee of swim lessons.
Shocking, you change in the women's?
Sometimes. Especially in a small town YMCA. So let me inform you that I was the youngest person at this YMCA swim class by a good 30 years. If not more. I can confirm that them titties, there's magic happening, or they are fake. These are high.
Kark will send me videos and I'm like, that bra is doing a lot of support right there.
Well,
we're talking like, some of the stuff he sends me is like, Clue level, like,
yes.
Titty shelves.
Yes. Yeah. Double G's going on.
Yes.
Got some H's. Yeah. I do appreciate that at one point we do see that the taller woman wears a full corset, even in her own home, because she's fabulous. And you know what, girl, you do you. But later on in the movie, we see her with no support structure whatsoever. And so we can confirm that it is not a bra doing an ungodly amount of lifting.
No.
These boobs just levitate.
Wizardry.
Yes.
Wingardium Leviosa.
But just the titties. Because they give the rest of these women, like, proper... Even though this is claymation, and there's a lot of caricature going on, there is a lot of detail to the actual, like, physique that you don't normally see with claymation. Like, not only are the joints in the right places for fucking one, but also, like, bodies are squishy in weird places. Even the main character, who's supposed to be the most normal-looking one, like, she's proportioned really well.
Yeah.
This is, like, some really nice detail while still making it fun and hilarious. And also the dogs with the overbite. They have fucking teeth, and I love it.
Well, and I think some of the dogs were inspired by, like, Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because this is the one aspect that Selleck 100% kept with this movie, is that, from the book, is that he said the old starlets had to be British.
Yes, and I 100% agree, and I also think this is a really clever detail that he added, because part of the reason why these two are so much more fleshed out than Bobimski is because he had to figure out a way of why are there two British starlets here, in America, in Washington, or Oregon. Yeah, because it's, like, near Seattle.
No, Seattle's in Washington.
Yeah, I know this.
It's a few hours south of Bend.
Yes.
I have it written later on. It's because there was a Shakespeare festival in this town.
And and it's not just, like, a Shakespeare festival. It's, like, apparently, like, a huge deal.
Yes.
Which sounds amazing, but also, like, that's such a clever detail bit. Because, like, at no point do they directly say, like, hey, the only reason these two women live here is because they want to be in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Or in these Shakespeare plays. It's implied. But the director knew it. Like, the director purposefully put it in. And that's such clever writing.
It's a nice little detail because it does cement the movie to a specific area. Because there is, later on, when they're driving into town, signs for the Shakespeare Festival.
And it also helps make this much more realistic. While we don't know about Bobimski and why there is a random Russian man with mice in the ceiling, we do know about the downstairs neighbors, which makes Bobimski more believable. Because maybe there is a reason he's here, other than hiding from the KGB.
Something like that.
Or starting his mousecapades. I don't know.
We don't know what Bobimski does outside of
doing push-ups.
Yeah. But we do have a little moment here where the starlets have a tea leaf reading.
I love that they're both into the occult. That's such, like, a drama thing. Like, they both feel like that's what they crave is drama.
They feel very much like the old, like, Aleister Crowley
style
of, like, oh, I'm a performer, but I also know magic.
Yes, like, they feel like they're into a little bit of everything.
Well,
like, they're into the wild and kooky because they want to be wild and kooky. Like, one of them is actively knitting a outfit for the dog who's not dead yet.
That's later on.
Yeah, but, like, also the detail of this dog, even from this moment, you can pick out which one's the one that's going to die first.
A little sickly.
Not just a little bit, but not like, oh, wow, that's the dead-looking one. One of them has cloudy eyes.
Ah.
One of them, like, is, like, slumpy a little bit more.
So old, he's like, how is this dog alive still?
But, like, you couldn't, like, from a distance be like, oh, wow, a living corpse.
Ah.
Like, it's almost like they kind of want him to die. Like, as someone whose family works in vet tech, like, we see a lot of dogs who are well past that expiration date. But we also see a lot of dogs who, like, yeah, they got cloudy eyes. Yeah, they can't hear. But, like, they got another 5 years. They got another 10 years if they're small.
Yeah.
And this is a small breed dog. This is a little Scottish Terrier. That sucker could go for years. And she's preparing for its death.
A little later on.
Yeah, well, I mean...
but the tea reading, this shows that they can't get along. One says, oh, it's a warning. One says, oh, it's a giraffe.
Which doesn't mean diddly squat in tea reading.
But when we do actually see it, it's more claws.
It does, but I like how it's designed, because, like, when they flip it over, yeah, I see giraffe. I see where she's going.
Yeah.
I do like, though, that, like, it's clearly amateur. Like, she doesn't explain giraffe at all. She doesn't even, like, try and bullshit, like, what the giraffe could mean. She's just like, it's a giraffe.
It's like cloud reading of...
I love it, though.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's so clear that they've, like, they didn't even pick up a book to study this. They just, like, did it.
Yeah, they're self-taught.
So self-taught.
Which Coraline leaves them, and there's now a fog about where we have YB hunting banana slugs with his wuss-puss, which, by the way, the cat's name in the movie is the cat.
Because the cat knows his own name. Why would you need it?
And also, it's not really YB's cat, it's just a cat that hangs out that chills with him.
I feel that. I got one of those.
I feel the cat is kind of watching over YB to make sure that YB doesn't accidentally do something stupid that puts him in the house.
Yes, and I like that the director acknowledged that the cat has a lot of Cheshire Cat vibes, but that's kind of the point. Like, cats are mysterious. They come and go as they please. They definitely have their own personality. They don't seem to have a real master.
No.
You serve them, peasant.
Yes, as you've heard earlier in the podcast, Charlie screaming is he wants to be fed.
Yes, all the time.
Also, I did not realize that banana slugs lived all the way up to Alaska. For some reason, I thought they were like a South American slug.
Oh, yeah, no.
I thought like they ate bananas, so I didn't realize that.
They're yellow.
I didn't know that. I'm just one of those things that it's like, okay, that's something you like correlate as a kid, and then you don't realize that you're an idiot until you actually look it up.
No, I totally feel you. I was under the full belief that kiwi the bird was the same size as a normal kiwi, like the fruit.
I can see
They're not.
that.
They're like basketball sized.
Depends on the kiwi.
The fruit or the bird?
The bird.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 different types of kiwis.
They are still much bigger than I assumed.
Yes, and their eggs are much bigger.
Yeah. But I love this scene because this is a really good attempt at, like, proving that this character, he knows he's awkward, but, like, he would like to be friends. Mm-hmm. He is trying to be friendly, even though he is awkward and weird.
Yeah, and even Coraline realizes that something's not right, so that way she's very cautious of the weirdness and asking YB about the house a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because YB is the only one that she knows has been there or has generations of being around this house.
And also is going to answer her questions.
Yes. And this is also the part where we're told that YB is not really allowed in the house 100%.
No.
And this is the really heavy part where the doll's always watching, and the cat seems a little bit different, because we've been hinted that the Mushka knows something, but the doll is looking through the window, and the cat looks up at it.
Yes.
So, it's the little clues of something else is going on.
I also like that we now get a really good look at Cat, because Cat's model is fantastic. He is a plain black cat, but those eyes, they managed to make his eyes so reflective and bright. And it's not something you normally see in a claymation, especially for an animal.
Yeah, everything's generally dull because you don't want it to reflect, because your light shouldn't change, but if something does change...
Well, and on top of that, normally animals get fairly dark eyes. Or, especially because, like, otherwise you end up with, like, ghost or demon-looking pets. Whereas Cat, they purposefully gave him bright, shiny blue eyes. But they're not glowy demon eyes, they're just cat bright blue eyes that make him look so much more intelligent even when he's not talking.
Makes him look sharp.
It does. It adds to that layer of, like, is Cat normal? Or are all cats not normal?
No cats are normal.
Nor cats are normal.
All cats are dumb.
Yes, but I also like that this movie, without directly intending to, also implies that the musical Cats is accurate, because all cats have 3 names. The name that their owners call them by, their cat name, and then their personal name that only they know.
I assume this is a reference to Cats, which I have not seen any of them.
Oh, you're missing out on such gold.
I'm holding out for the butthole edition.
You do that.
But we cut tonight, and the doll's still watching, which Coraline leaves a quote-unquote trap for the mice.
I appreciate the trap. It's very cute.
It's just cheese.
It's just cheese.
Just cheese. But she returns to the other world, where she shoot off to see Other Father in the garden.
This garden is fantastic.
Which, notably, Other Mother is not as nice the second time around. She's kind of short and shoos Coraline off.
Yeah.
Because the father is now planting / growing /
watering
the garden with his mantis tractor.
I love mantis tractor.
I do
It's
too.
our first real good look at, like, a bug variation on something big, which later on becomes, like, a pretty standard theme of the other world. But this is our first, like, hard... Oh, look, it's just a mantis that's also a tractor.
Yeah, and it makes the garden feel much more magical because everything's growing with it as it grows.
And also, I love that all of the plants look kind of like a real plant. Granted, maybe not a plant that you would normally grow in your garden, at least not in Washington or Oregon. But they also don't look quite real.
No, and they all have, like, different personalities based off the type of plant.
Yes. All of them move, all of them glow, or make a noise. They're all so magical without being too fanciful. Like, there's no talking roses with faces.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we have this... none of them talk, but we got, like, the snapdragons and
That's
stuff.
as close to, like, alive as it is. But even then, I like that it's really, like, heavily implied that, like, no, they're just flowers. They're not, like, personality flowers like the roses are in Alice in Wonderland, because we see other father cut them and put them in a little bundle and hand them to her, and they still move, and they look happy. Like, they don't look like he's murdered them.
It's magic.
It is magic.
But after being shown this magical garden, which we get an aerial shot, and at the end of it, it's a garden of Coraline.
Oh, how cute. But also weird.
Yeah.
I don't want a garden of my face. I'm good.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't either. But it is time for dinner breakfast. And we are sent to see the other tenants, and the doll has been observing the whole day.
Ah, yes.
Which we get the exterior of this house that looks painted and good.
But it's not changed too much. It just looks kept.
Yeah, exactly. It looks not worn down.
Yeah.
And we're also introduced to a new YB who can't speak because, as Other Mother puts it, Coraline hates him speaking, or you prefer him this way.
Yes, and she heavily implies that she has changed YB.
Yes.
Which I love, because the director makes the connection at this point in the commentary that, like, this is where he started to see Hansel and Gretel vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, not only is she, like, feeding Coraline and kind of fattening her up, but, like, she is probably doing something heinous behind the scenes, not just trying to ensnare her to get her to live here forever, but, like, we might be nomming on stuff. We might be nomming on people.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more grotesque than originally thought.
Yeah.
And I love that mindset, because at no point does this movie get, like, graphic of any way. And it doesn't even directly mention any of it. But because the director's over here thinking about it, you do feel those intentions. You do get that, like, sense of, like, oh, if I don't get out, I will die.
Yeah. No,
I will be eaten.
There's the continued growth of Other Mother not being as patient as she used to be, because also at the same time, like, it feels like she's getting desperate of, like, the first go ahead of, like, here's all this food, this is all you wanted, right?
Yes.
To, okay, now I have to expend some of my magic. Other father's gotta plant a garden. Oh, she needs a friend, which I think is a way to show that Coraline does need a friend, and YB's kind of growing on her a little bit.
I fully agree, because I think if she truly didn't like YB, I don't think he would end up in Otherworld.
No, not at all.
No.
Or it could just be Other Mother saw her talking to someone else.
Maybe.
And she knows that Coraline's alone, and so here's why I think the Shadow YB2 is because if Other Mother and Other Father weren't enough to get Coraline to stay, maybe a friend will do it. If Mom and Dad aren't enough, maybe she needs someone her own age.
I agree that, like, that's all the background logic, but I do think Other Mother is practiced enough to know what to bring in, and not just bring in a random thing. Because, like, she could have brought in any, like, kid and be like, look, a friend, he lives up the street.
But here's the thing, I think she needs some point of reference to base it off of.
Ooh, I like that theory.
Because again, remember, everything in this world is a reflection of Coraline's world.
True.
It's her world, but it's slightly different.
Just a little better.
Yeah.
I like it.
So she couldn't really bring another person into it. It had to be YB.
I like it.
Yeah. Also adds why he's an important character in the movie itself.
Yes, I'll take it.
Yeah. Because now it's time for Serbi Alexander Bobinski's Circus.
Which I love.
Which she has given so much attention to this world. And honestly, this is the part in the movie where the animation is a bit stiff.
At times, especially YB.
I was going to say the mice.
The mice, to an extent, I can see what you mean. I think that there's enough of them that, and they feel rubber mousy enough that I typically let them kind of slide, whereas YB's head is, like, way lower than I feel like it's supposed to be.
Again, she's fixed him.
I know, but, like, even real world YB, like,
yeah.
I know he's supposed to be slouching, and I know that we were trying to toe the line between realism and cartoonism with this claymation style. I just feel like YB's one of the few characters who, like, really over caricatures. Like, yes, Father's neck is way too fucking long. Mr. Bobowski's legs do not support him.
No.
At all. But like, they move in a natural flowing way, whereas Wybie, even real world Wybie, and especially Otherworld Wybie, though I give Otherworld Wybie a bit of a pass because like
he's a weird kid.
He's a weird kid, and also is Otherworld Wybie even real, which we'll get to. Like, I give him a pass for moving stiff, but like he's always just a hair off. Whereas at least with the mice, they feel like a dream.
Okay.
Like, they don't feel real.
I can see it.
Especially because, like, we just ate chicken pooped popcorn.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And also we get introduced to the cotton candy cannons.
Which I love the concept of. I do find it gross that Wybie is constantly covered in cotton candy from this sequence. It's a little nasty, but okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, it also makes something that's supposed to be sinister, because the entire walkway up is covered in cannons.
Yes.
So, like, it's not just like, oh, they need a cannon for, like,
Oh, no, there's, like, a full lineup of cannons facing into where you'd walk.
Exactly.
But because Wybie, the one who I don't care if he dies, and I think most of the audience would be like, okay, if, like, he got cannoned. Because even he, like, sets off a cannon to get the cotton candy, you're like, oh, it's fun and magical. Yeah. It's definitely not a cannon.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
It does feel a little bit sinister, kind of like evil clowns. Like, it could be good, it could be bad.
Killer clowns from outer space.
Or killer clowns from early 2000s.
Yes. But I just, this whole scene, I think it would probably be the biggest pain to put together.
Oh,
specifically the mice.
There's so many mice. And they're all doing stuff.
Yeah, it's I will say the mice for me is the worst animated part, which I wouldn't say worst, the roughest.
I totally see what you mean. I think this scene is definitely the weakest as far as animation-wise in the movie, but thankfully it is fairly short-lived, especially the mice.
Yep, because it's bedtime and we get a nice dissolved fade of Other Mother being replaced by the doll.
Yes. I also like that once again, everyone, including Wybie, come to tuck her in to go to bed.
So creepy.
It is so creepy, but like, if you're that lonely and desperate as a kid, I could kind of get it.
Your otherworld kind of best friend is sitting there watching you go to sleep.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Yes.
Especially as like someone who's like actual best friend, like would fall asleep, kick me off the bed, and then just leave me in the cold.
Well, I think it also just ties back into my theory of if Other Mother and Other Father aren't enough, how many more elements can she keep adding that will be
enough to get her to stay?
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it.
Because now it's time to go into town where we see ads for the Shakespeare Festival.
And we even see some Shakespeare actors practicing on the street.
Yes, which this is the bit of info where we get the movie is set in Ashland, Oregon, because that's where the festival is, long rainy winters instead of the English set book.
A great detail, which honestly you don't need to remember, but it does help tie everything together.
Yes. One thing that I like about this part too is Coraline's relationship with Wybie and kind of why she might be mean to him at the beginning. It reminds me like Coraline's mimicking her mother a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the dad is so goofy, but the mom is kind of mean to the dad about everything.
It feels like normally her mom probably teases and like isn't as goofy as him, but she doesn't feel good. They just moved. Mm-hmm. They're under really strict, like, it looks like money crunch and also timeline and deadline crunch and also very improbable stuff that, like, instead of having a good nature, yeah, she's kind of being a dick. And Coraline's picking up on that.
Exactly. So we're seeing the worst of it.
I also like that Coraline is getting her school uniform and all of the options in the school uniform place are a variation of gray, navy blue, and black. Which is pretty standard. Like, I went to a school that had uniforms. That's pretty standard, especially in the US. Like, those are your normal school color combinations.
It's gotta fit with her Japanese schoolboy hat.
Yeah, she wouldn't be allowed to wear that sucker. But there is one single pair of fun gloves, and it is such a small detail, but they are twice the price of the normal gloves.
Shocking.
Yeah, they're like $25, and everything else is like $10 or $15.
Yeah, well, and I like that moment too because it shows Coraline wants a little color in her life.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be gray and drab. She wants to have something fun. And also we see that in Coraline's ever-rotating costumes, which I love that Coraline does not wear the same thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And everything she wears is age appropriate.
Yeah.
But also a hot mess. This girl dresses herself in whatever she can find, whatever she feels is appropriate. She's got like tights on, skirt, jumper sweater, jacket, pockets everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's like definitely dirt in one of those pockets.
Well, and also like the scene too is the mother is really trying her best as far as we can tell. But I can also understand her frustration too, because this whole time Coraline is going on about like, or I think her mother says dreams aren't dangerous, but Coraline the whole time is saying that other mother does this, other mother does that.
Yes. And also like it's very clear that her mom is trying to get her to like stand still so that she can see if this outfit's going to fit her.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, like, I know, especially if mom is like my mom, she probably already knows what size Coraline wears and probably doesn't actually need her there, but like she's brought her along so she can go into town and like have an outing. Like we're having daughter shopping time.
Size her up to make sure it's a little bit bigger so she'll grow into it in the next year.
And also like, even though there's really no opinions to give, like she is trying to include her. They very well could have left her home alone. She's 11. And they have neighbors.
Well, and also it's an important building moment too, because when they're driving back, this is the part where Coraline brings up that it's not her fault that the car accident happened.
Yes.
And the mom's like, I know it's not your fault, but still, honey, please don't bring it up.
Which kind of makes it sound like maybe it is kind of Coraline's fault.
A little bit, but the parents don't want to blame Coraline.
No, she's a kid. She probably didn't realize what she did.
Exactly. And we never find out exactly what the accident was. Maybe they got rear-ended or rear-ended someone.
Yeah, or, you know, what my parents convinced me was going to cause a car accident was at night you turn on a little overhead light to read.
Ah, yes.
I was told endlessly that was going to wreck us immediately.
I was told it was illegal to do
that.
I
was also told that we were going to get pulled over and given a ticket.
Not true at all, but...
No.
Probably just so that way they could actually see through the rear view mirror and not.
Well, also, like, you know, maybe I will go to sleep.
Yes. But we get back and the dolls moved a little bit. I still have questions on how this doll works, if it can actually move during the day, or we never really get anything.
We don't, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Mystery.
Because we got back to the other world where Coraline's other mothers put a nice outfit and awaits Coraline with because this is the only time she goes over there during the day. Yeah. Because her mother goes out. She's like, I'll go out and get groceries. I'll just leave you at home. Which Coraline has good food, and she's told to go visit the downstairs neighbors. This time,
yes,
other mother's not there. It's kind of like, okay, here's another thing for you to look at. Which Coraline on her way down is interrupted by Kat, which
hello, Kat,
voiced by Keith David, finally talks, and he is so sassy.
Oh, I love Kat.
And this is the first bit where we get the Cheshire Cat likeness, because he disappears behind a log and Coraline goes downstairs.
Yes.
Where she's distracted by the music and finds a theater full of audience dogs.
I love how many dogs there are.
And Wybie.
And Wybie.
Fun fact, there's about 500 dog models for this shot alone.
The ones up front, were movable and posable, but the ones out back are, kind of on a stick. Yeah. You could just kind of wiggle them.
Exactly. They didn't have to be as detailed.
No. But that's amazing. It's a lot of dog models.
It is. But it's musical time with the Starlets, who both have white button eyes instead of the black. And we get the personification of their rivalry, which the song that they ended up using was the Temp song, because Selleck kept trying to get They Might Be Giants to write something better, and they never did. They're just like, that song's fine, you can just use it, man.
I love that the songwriters were like, no, this is a good song, you should go with it. And as a director, he's like, no, it must be perfect.
And for those unfamiliar with They Might Be Giants, they did the Malcolm in the Middle theme.
Of course.
Yeah. Also, I guess parents were offended by this scene, even though he's pulling off of classic literature of what's his name, Homer and the Siren, as well as the birth of Venus.
Yeah. So Homer and the Siren was apparently less offensive because, you know, she's pretending to be a mermaid, and when you're pretending to be a mermaid, it's okay to show your boobs a little bit. But if you are just a slightly more clad version of Venus, which is the one where she's standing in the seashell naked with her long, like, orange hair flowing behind her, which I love this detail too. Did you notice that, like, the orange hair when she's pretending to be Venus is so stiff? It just, like, it doesn't even float. It literally is just behind her, like it's clearly a wig.
I did not catch on to that.
I loved it because the hair is so good in this movie. And all of it moves really nicely, except for these two old women's hair, because they are legitimately wigs.
That makes much more sense because we do see them putting on wigs earlier on.
Yeah, and this one, like, is, like, anime convention style shaped, where it doesn't even flow, it just is, like, foam sticking out behind her. Beautiful. I love it. But yeah, like, she is more clothed than the original painting, which the original painting is not clothed. I think she's just got her hand over her nips and, like, you know, a little, like, ooh, tantalizing taste. But, like, for the most part, she's fully naked.
Yeah.
This woman is wearing tasteful blue pasties that have sparkles on them.
I think in anime terms, they refer to part of it as the hand bra.
Yeah. Or, you know, the selective fog. Or steam.
Very much so like that.
Yeah. The well-placed bubbles in the bubble bath. And then, like, just, like, swimsuit bottoms. But yeah, people were upset, and I think part of the reason people were upset is, A, this is the bigger boobed woman.
Yeah.
Who is, you know, going topless. And also, like, neither of them seem to be upset or ashamed that, like, both of them are squishy, jiggly, and, like, they have, like, butt rolls, and...
Well, and I think
I
think it's also because Coraline reacts like, they're practically naked.
Yeah, which, like, they're trying to portray classical, literature and art, and, like, doesn't get much more classically art than this.
Nope.
While also being full on just a battle.
Yeah, it's a fun scene.
It is very fun, and I love that at the very end we finally get to see them and what they remember themselves looking like.
Very briefly.
Very briefly, but, like, it's a really fun way of, like, because the director mentioned, like, he wanted them to be quoting Shakespeare, but he didn't want them just standing on stage quoting Shakespeare. So why not have them doing these fanciful acrobats?
Yeah, where they're supposed to have an act together, but they screw it up.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, after this show, Other Mother's outfit has changed, and it's
a little bit more Beatle-y now.
It's
a little bit more bug-like.
Well, and on top of, I'd say it's more arachnid-esque with a big booty.
Yes, it almost feels like her actual shape is changing.
Yes, and there's a little moment there with, or there's a little bit to the outfit where the back of it has a little red patch.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little spider-esque.
Yeah, just a bit. It's a little on the nose, but it's good.
But it's real good.
Yeah, it fits. But it's time to surprise Coraline that if she wants to stay, she has to get buttons for eyes.
Won't hurt a bit.
Or the dad says it hurts just a little bit.
I love that he messes it up, because it does make it feel like everyone in this world is being forced to play Other Mother's game, but is not themselves Other Mother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which Coraline is very much at that point where it's like, oh, time to get out of here.
She's like, I will not be sewing buttons onto my eyes.
Give me another night to think about it.
Yeah.
And I like the line, soon you'll see things our way.
Yes.
Yeah, which Coraline's trapped and things are turning to horror as the world is small and only what they need to be, because she does try to escape. Oh, it's not bedtime. She leaves the door, and as she's running away, the world just scatters off into, like, white.
There is nothing beyond this.
Nope. Yeah, she's talking to Kat, trying to figure stuff out. Which, this scene of White Limbo, they said was one of the most difficult things to do, but the crew had worked on a Pillsbury commercial that had white void, so they were experienced.
Oh, saved by the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Which, I do have some questions about this, because in the opening scene, the window outside the world is full of stars, and did they just do that because it looks cool, or was the Other Mother developing the world while she was doing this?
So there are a couple of fan theories that like kind of go along with this. Some of them think that it's all Other Mother and that she only has so much that she can dedicate to any one thing.
Okay.
Others think that there is like nesting doll type of horror happening here.
Okay.
So there's Other Mother, but Tunnel and Void are a different entity than Other Mother. She just happens to live in this entity.
Oh, okay. It's kind of like Shelob.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's two of my favorite fan theories that I think honestly have probably the most to back them. But it is just fan theories. No one, the director or the writers haven't said like hardcore what the direction was here.
Okay. That makes a bit more sense then. Where she lives in another world, but she found a portal to the other side.
Yes.
Okay, and she can only control the part that she lives in. Okay, that makes sense. Which one I do like the pixelated kind of end of the world.
Oh, me too.
And we get the first time that we see that that one we know now the doll's watching because we see one of the mice that the cat kills and turns into a sawdust rat.
Yes.
Also, I do like as the cat's trying to explain the world, even the cat doesn't know, but he's just there to stir the shit pot.
Yes. I also like that it is implied that Cat can jump between a lot of different worlds.
Yes.
And this one just happens to have his interest at the moment.
Yeah, it's the one that he likes screwing around with the most.
Yes.
But it's time for Coraline to face the music and pry the tunnel open, but surprise, bug furniture, and now the bug's also food.
Yes, I really like how subtly we changed from very normal to bug to more bug to now it is in your face, you cannot miss it bug.
Yes. But at this part, Selleck mentions, or at one part in the movie, the reason he brought in dragonflies was because Other Mother gets fixated on aspects and can't get away from it. Specifically, Coraline has some dragonfly origami.
Yes.
And
it's
so,
one of the only things in her room. So there's really not a whole lot of inspiration for Other Mother to go with.
The mantis is somewhere else in the room. There's a few bug-like things.
Yes.
Also, I like the moth over the fireplace. I think it's kind of
I do
funny.
too.
Or the moth fireplace cover.
There's a couple of people I've seen who've tried to, like, in miniature recreate the other home, especially in bug form. And there's a lot of really fun little details that, thanks to them and their incredible attention to detail and time, that, like, you can pick up on. Like, there are, even from the earlier scenes, but, like, the farther you get, the more color definition you get with, like, the wallpaper has bugs in it.
Yes.
The rug has bugs, like, hidden in it. Like, there's a lot of really fun, small details that now that they've all built up to all of these, like, suggestions of bugs and spiders have really, like, nailed it in.
There's a note I have written on that a little bit down the line, too.
Perfect.
But Other Mother, we finally see her transform into something more monstrative.
She is now very scary.
Not fully monster, but she's thinned out a little bit. She's
definitely not human anymore.
No. She looks a little starved is what she looks like, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Which really shows that she's getting desperate, that she's not trying to use her power to fully hide her looks anymore.
Yeah.
Which, because Coraline doesn't respond the way Other Mother wants, she gets thrown into the mirror, and it's time to meet the ghost kids.
Ooh, spooky.
Who are very much so, they bring up the name of the creature. They say the Beldam might be listening, which I don't know book lore, but I know Beldam's an archaic term for an old woman.
Yeah, this is one of those other places where some fan theory gets to run free, where are we referring to the actual mother here? Are we referring to a different monster? Or are we just using a term and, like, the background to these kids would reflect on why they would call it that?
Well, that also makes sense, too, because all these kids are more archaic. We see them from the pioneering days, the early industrial age, and then the early 1900s and YB's aunt, which this is where we fully find out that she spied on us through the doll's eyes, and that the doll that we saw in the beginning was YB's aunt.
Yes.
And so the Beldam hasn't fed in probably a good 40, 50 years.
Yes.
In this era, I mean, we also learned that kind of like how the Weeping Angels feed in Doctor Who is that she eats up their lives across the different eras.
Yeah.
Which kind of feels Stephen King's It in a way.
It adds a nice layer of, like, horror that isn't necessarily too spooky for a kid, unless you're sitting there thinking about it at night.
Yeah. And it's just a cool way to, like, show that this isn't her first rodeo.
No.
Which I also think it's kind of a newer discovery of whatever the Beldam is.
Yeah. Because, there's only the 3 ghost kids. Yes,
exactly. And so we know she's only done it 3 times, which is probably why she's also impatient, is like, she hasn't eaten in a long time too. Yeah.
She's not quite good enough to be proficient at it yet.
Yes. And it's also to show that the dead are stuck in this world. They're not trapped in our world, they're trapped in this other world and they can't move on. Yeah. One cool technical aspect about the Ghost Kids is that they are all shot at, I think they said 4 images per second instead of the standard 24 that they use for the rest of the movie. And they dissolved between each so that they felt more ghostly and... Yes. Yeah, there's some cool technical aspects that they did for the ghosts. But they're short-lived as other YB is to the rescue with, I like that he's wearing the mask. And then Coraline really sees what's going on because she's fixed him again. Yes. And he's kind of falling apart in his own way too. And the mask of the entire world is falling apart because Coraline does eventually get to the tunnel, but it's full of discarded toys and cobwebs.
Which is probably why Other Mother sent her away without using the tunnel the first couple times.
Exactly. And actually, yeah, that's right, because this is the first time we see her go through the tunnel the other way.
It's no longer fun and magical.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like a two-way mirror. You see it one way, and then you go to the other side. I get it. But Coraline returns home, and the food is rotten. And YB shows up asking for the doll, and Coraline pulls him in, which I love how confused YB is, because he knows he's not supposed to be there, and does not believe her at all. Because from here, Coraline goes back to the Starlets, who are preparing for a show that Coraline's parents were supposed to take her to, so we can assume that Coraline's been trapped there maybe a day or 2.
At least long enough for the tomatoes to be bad.
Yeah, which depends. Yeah. Which, this is where they're knitting a
an outfit for their not dead dog.
Angus, because he hasn't been looking so good.
He doesn't look that bad, guys.
No.
he really doesn't look that bad.
He looks like he's got a little bit of a cold.
And maybe some cat yes, he looks like an elderly dog. He does not look on death's bed.
No. But I also, their next level of fortune telling is so weird with the reserved candy that they're just...
I love this, because this feels like some weird superstition that they have, where once a year they have to keep a candy bowl.
Well, so it's from their reserved candy, which there's 3 dates that are left: 1921, 1936, and 1966. And the ones that they pull ends up having a special seeing stone in it. Yeah. Which lends to the fact that maybe they do know a little bit more, but they're not super clued in. They've lost their connection, but they still have a little bit of something. Kind of like Trelawney from Harry Potter.
Yeah. The other thing that I like, though, is this kind of adds to them having very basic understanding of the occult and fairy tale sort of lore, because what they end up handing over is a seeing stone or a witch's stone, which is fairly common in folklore. That is how you see fairies or magic or witchcraft, depending on which story you're talking about. Yeah. I like, though, that they have hidden it inside, it's a powerful artifact. They have hidden it inside the candy dish, and they must break it free.
It kind of looks like one of those things for the Ouija board.
It is. And I do like that the director addressed the fact that, it is an unnatural color. It is, very green. Mm-hmm. And also it is triangle-shaped, and he had mentioned that, he did this on purpose, not so that necessarily to make it seem unique, but because he kind of imagined them have made this out of candy, which I love, because you're supposed to find them naturally in streams. Yeah. But these two have made a candy version.
It's unnatural, but it still works.
Yeah, and it's hard as a rock.
But quickly after that, Coraline goes to bed in her parents' room specifically, which is a nice touch.
And I like that she's made kind of fake versions of them. That feels like a good, she's an 11-year-old, she knows this is silly, but it does help.
It's comforting because if she was scared, she'd go to bed with them, but they're completely absent. And
yeah, they're gone.
She goes to bed with the doll still, even though the doll watches, because there's still something with that comfort of having a doll.
Yeah.
And she's awoken by Cat.
Hello, Cat.
Which she goes to see, or she gets pulled away by knocking on the mirror, which she sees her parents on the other side freezing, which she breaks the mirror, which feels very Shining-like.
Yeah.
Because, one, the mom's writing, it feels like Red Rum a little bit.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But also, all the shards from the broken mirror are pointing right at her.
Oh, yeah. No, it's very visually symbolic feeling without being, too direct.
Oh, forgot to say, Coraline also finds a doll version of her parents sewn together.
I also like that the director mentions this specifically because he talks about how there's only ever one doll. And it just gets remade each time. And so now the Coraline doll has been remade into mother and father doll.
Very roughly put together, too.
Quickly.
Which, it's now time to throw the doll in the fire. And it's now Coraline's point of no return. Which, there's a nice touch because we get to see a close-up of the Detroit Zoo.
Yes.
Or in the snow globe, which we've been seeing in the photo that she keeps looking at of her parents earlier on. And so it just shows that Coraline really needs them.
Yeah.
And that they were once happy. But now it's time to face Other Mother. We see that Other Dad is falling apart and gets kind of shooed off.
I don't hate Other Dad's design at this point.
No.
He does feel squishy and blobby. I did not, without the director's comments, catch the whole rotting pumpkin reference.
Oh, I caught it. He looks rather squash. You see, you don't really see it in this scene. You see it in the next bit.
Yeah. I at this point had developed him in my head as Mush Monster, kind of like Howl's Moving Castle Mush Monster sort of thing, where he's tar, squishy, blobby. And so I never quite made the jump to pumpkin, even though there's pumpkins in the movie already.
Yeah, well, in the next scene we see him on the tractor and his whole bottom half is a pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he gets sent off, and this is our first little bit where we have, and I think this is important because Coraline's no longer thinking out loud. She's trying to keep an inner monologue. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of her way of trying to keep things secret from Other Mother.
Yes.
She challenges Other Mother to a game. 3 eyes, 3 trials, and through the other mother's wonders that she's made. Yeah, that's the right phrasing. Which, our first trial, the garden looks hella dead.
It looks very sad.
This is where you start to see how the tools are the everyday items that she was wearing and using, the shears specifically. And we find out that the stone really works. And this is where Dad is a squash.
Yes, I see it now.
Which, honestly, Coraline solves the challenge if she finds out through the seeing stone that I like that Other Dad helps her at the end, too.
I do, too, because it never feels like any of the other characters are truly, malicious against her. They're just being forced to.
Yeah, they don't have any other option.
Yeah. Which
we find out that the other eye is the...
it's the shifter knob.
Yeah, the gear shift. But... yeah, it's a nice little touch.
It is.
And the gray dyeing of the world's nice. The button eclipse as kind of like a timer.
I do like the button eclipse. It feels not only very, symbolic, but it's a very good, strong visual to stick with the movie. So, even after you haven't seen this for several years, that button slowly moving across the moon really does hold tight. Yeah,
exactly. And so now Coraline's on to the second trial with the theater and the vampire dogs.
I freaking love these little vampire bat dogs. They're so cute.
Why are they vampires? I have no clue.
So the reason that they are bat dogs is because Other Mother has seen the angel dead version of the dogs with wings. And because we kind of think that she probably can't make anything up herself, she has morphed the angel dogs into demon dogs.
It's a perversion of the world outside of Coraline.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get to meet the twin Taffy sisters,
I love them so
which
much.
Coraline has to solve through creative thinking, again showing she's smart, she's just not forceful, like the last time she had to fight back the plants with force. Which we now see that the web is unwinding, and I do feel for other YB at this point.
Yeah, other YB's not having a great time.
No, he's barely holding on.
You kind of feel bad for all of the other characters, other than Mother, of course, because Pumpkin Dad never really did anything wrong.
No.
And you kind of get the sense that while the sisters are enjoying being the center of attention in the theatrics, they don't really put up a hard fight.
No, they just kind of grab it, and it feels like they're still trying to hold on to their stardom, even though they're way past their prime.
Yeah, the only ones who feel truly like they are trying to be any type of vindictive is maybe the Bat Dogs, and they're based off of dead dogs stuffed on a wall, so okay.
You can't feel bad for them.
Not really.
Yeah, the ones that you don't feel bad for is what comes next with the mice circus that,
The mice.
I love that's just rats in a suit.
I do too.
Which...
But again, you kind of feel bad for Babowski because he's not a real person, he's just mice.
Yeah.
He's just rats in an outfit. He's not even a real person in this world.
What was that Bobinski even a real Bobinski, or was he just more rats in a Bobinski?
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know if she's replaced the previous one with rat costume.
Yeah, which I like their last try of trying to get her to stay. She's like, if you leave, you'll be bored and neglected back in the real world.
But not dead. Yeah. So.
But we do get a good reuse of the cotton candy to slow her down, and we saw in the first part.
Yeah.
Which Cat does show up to the rescue.
Hooray, Cat.
Kills the rat. Coraline gets her third eye. And the world just starts falling apart, kind of like a reverse Pleasantville.
Yes. I also like that the button timer is not necessarily directly related to the game.
No.
She collected all of the buttons, or all of the eyes, but that didn't stop the timer.
No.
It's, the world is still deteriorating.
Well, because that's part of it. She doesn't have to just find the eyes, she still has to find her parents.
Yes.
Which, I do like this little unraveling. It feels very Kingdom Hearts-esque.
Oh, yeah. Another good emo kid game from the early 2000s.
Yes. But now the house is all web on the walls. Even the furniture's caught up in it.
Yeah, everything has, either reverted back to spider style, where it's just webs, or it is more deteriorated than actual house.
Mm-hmm.
Actively peeling up.
Yeah, which also... This is the second movie we've covered in a short time frame that uses green as an unnatural color, and
it's good though, isn't it?
I don't know the color theory of why it just works so well.
I think part of it is because in this world there is naturally greens,
mm-hmm.
but this is not a natural green color. It's too much.
The fire's green is what it is.
Yes, it's in the wrong place. It's the wrong type of green. It's wrong without being.
It's kind of like the Uncanny Valley theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, that makes much more sense. Because now the mother is fully bug-like. We finally see her hands and everything,
She's all
too.
needle fingery. But I like that each individual finger isn't an actual needle. It feels very armature.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like she's made up of parts.
Yes, exactly.
Without being steampunk.
Yeah.
She's too needly to be steampunk.
Craft punk.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah,
we'll use that term. We'll coin craft punk.
I'm sure it's a thing somewhere.
But also, this is the part where I said it's a good use of, this is really the shot where we see the entire room. It's very web-shaped. The wood pattern feels like a web.
I also like that the walls now, undulate and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of adds to some of the fan theories of, Other Mother exists inside of another entity.
Yes. Okay, yeah, that...
she's made up a web inside of something.
She's a parasite in the void.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the void is alive, of course.
To what point? We'll never know.
We don't know. It's just a fan theory, but I do like the detail.
Yeah. Because Coraline gets hints from the kids that, hey, she's gonna trick you, just a heads up. Because Coraline does find her parents in the snow globe. And the ghost kids are like, hey, you gotta get out of here. Even if you win, she's not gonna let you go.
No, she's a cheat.
Exactly. And I love that Coraline's a little bit of a cheat, too, when she uses the cat as a weapon.
I do, too, because, like, I have long stood by the fact that my pets would never directly attack an invader, but if I throw them onto the invader, and, like, the invader accidentally holds on to one of them, at least 2 of them would put up a fight.
I have started cat fights by tossing Charlie onto Hobbs.
Yeah, I know. Again, they wouldn't attack of their own accord, but if you throw one at them...
Yes. They're thrust into it. But I also like this moment, too, because it's how it's how Other Mother loses her eyes.
Yes, which is another good detail, because it adds to this, like, building of Other Mother, where, like, the eyes themselves are not... Like, until they are attached to her, they are not part of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are not removable and usable.
No, exactly.
And also, like, she doesn't have eye sockets behind the eyes.
Nope.
Like, there's nothing there.
It's a weird detail of how she can see.
But it also adds that level of creepiness, kind of like in Pan's Labyrinth, where, like, all of the parts are there, they're just in the wrong places, and they don't function correctly.
Okay.
Kind of like Eyeball Hand Man. He has all the parts. They're just not where they should be.
Yeah. Makes sense. Still wonder if the girl in Pan's Labyrinth had eaten the eyes, what then?
Maybe she'd be really good at seeing.
I don't know.
We'll never know. We will never know.
But I also love this bit too, because the cat's like, I've helped you enough, I'm out of here.
Bye.
Screw you, child.
But also, like, I adore that cat, unlike Cheshire Cat in especially the newest Alice in Wonderland iterations.
Mm-hmm.
That cat feels more person than cat. Like, it feels like a person pretending to be a cat. Whereas this cat feels 100% like a cat.
It's cat first, talking cat second.
Yeah, it is, yeah. All for cat and cat for one.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, Coraline took him and threw him at the beldam.
But at the same time, like, everyone who is a loving cat owner, we all know very well that our cats will eat our dead corpses.
Yes.
Because they are opportunistic little assholes, and that's why we love them. This cat is no different. He does not wait for Coraline to get up the web. He's like, bye, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Which Coraline does eventually get up, and the ghost kids save the day by cutting the beldam's hand off in the door. And she gets back home. Her parents are back to normal.
I love that her parents, even covered in snow, are like, minds don't work. This is kid-only magic.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about, honey?
Also, side thing I have a little notice on this is when Coraline goes up to her bedroom and checks her friend's photos.
Yeah.
The phone stand is the mantis.
It's very cute.
It's very, very cute.
Again, lots of really good details in this movie.
Yes. And Coraline gets the gloves, which makes it feel like the mom left Coraline back so she could go back and get the gloves. Yeah.
Because she had groceries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the cat returns to set things straight, which the ghost children appear again.
I have a love-hate relationship with the ghost children scene at the very end. I like the ghost children. I like the fun movie magic that we worked with to get them to feel ghosty, both in the lowering of the frame rate so that they kind of shifted in between places, and they also wiggle a little bit everywhere they are. They don't feel grounded. This time, they kind of... The thing that bothers me this time, and this might be a very specific problem that is only related to people of a certain generation and age.
Okay.
Do you remember back in the day when it was cool to change your mouse on the computer to have like a rainbow trail or to like have a ton of different iterations behind it?
I think I turned mine into a dinosaur.
Yeah, like we turned our mice into random shit in the MySpace era. They feel too much like a MySpace filter.
I can see that a little bit, yeah.
But at the same time, I love them because they do a great job of being over the top, like, we're angels. Like, this feels very much like a kid's interpretation of angels,
yes.
Which I love. I love the moving variation of Starry Night behind them.
Which, by the way, that was the only CGI that they use in the movie.
It looks really convincing and great, especially because, like, right now we're talking to dead people, so, like, I don't care the depth is a little off. I don't care that, like, it's moving differently than the rest of the world, because it's supposed to.
Yeah. Like, dreamlike.
Yeah. The only thing that even remotely bothers me about these children is that they remind me just a little bit too much like a MySpace mouse.
I can see that. It's kind of like the way I don't like the mice animated at the circus.
Yeah. This is my mice at the circus.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a low complaint. It's a low ball complaint, but it is my one complaint.
I can see it. But they are there. They're just not to say like, hey, we survived. We're out of here. They're telling that Coraline's even more in danger still because she has to hide the key because otherwise the Beldam can get through again.
And this is where this movie excels in writing and directing for me.
Okay.
Because from a book perspective, you have time, theoretically, and you should be, from start to end, catching your own loopholes. Movies, especially movies with that are kid-focused, have a terrible habit of leaving plot holes wide fucking open at the end. Especially at a spot that, like, feels like the ending and, like, we don't get a continuation. This is the directors and the writers actively acknowledging that there is still stuff to finish and we're not done.
Okay.
Granted, are there some plot holes in this version of the movie? Yes, of course. But it is not the glaring problem that it could have been if we had just ended and, like, her waking up and her parents being a little bit nicer to her and her being friends with the weird kid.
Like the furniture in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
This feels much more like an acknowledgement that we still have, like, one or two pieces to finish.
Okay. Well, yeah, I also like that she sings her dad's little ditty on her way out because,
I do too.
Yeah, this is the part where the beginning of the movie ties heavily into this.
Yes.
Because Coraline is going to take the key to, basically she's told you have to toss the key. If the Beldam knows where the key's at, then she's going to be able to get it again.
And in true kid logic, does she take it somewhere far, far away? Mail it somewhere that this creature has never heard of? No.
Nope.
She puts it on the same property in the well.
In the well.
In the well.
Which, the well is also, it feels a little magical because of the fairy ring.
And it feels, like, especially from a kid point of view, it feels like a portal.
Yeah. And it kind of is. I mean, and so, we didn't bring it up at the beginning. For those who don't know what a fairy ring is, it's when a group of mushrooms makes a natural circle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually caused by actual decay in the earth and not magical whatsoever, but a fun little, like, kind of like the scene stone being made out of candy.
Yeah.
A very cute little detail that doesn't add a lot, but it's nice.
Mm-hmm. And Coraline is attacked by the hand, but
Spooky.
It's YB to the rescue.
Kind of.
Keys dropped in the well. Coraline reconciles with YB, and the claw clouds over the moon parts.
Which, fantastically visual.
Nice way to put a real world button over the moon.
Yes, and also to, like, finally tell the audience, like, hey, Other Mother is gone.
Yes.
We've done it. We have succeeded.
She is not coming back.
Yes.
Because I think she even says that she'll starve as Coraline's, like, closing the door on her, like, that's gonna change anything.
Yeah. Like, I don't feel bad for you, scary lady.
Yep. And it's time for the end of the movie. It's garden party time.
Which is cute, because, like, we don't get a huge color shift here.
No.
But it is a little bit brighter.
It's obviously spring. It's planting time. I like that the starlets are expecting the drinks to be spiked.
I also like that all of the neighbors are out. Like, there's not a ton of work that has already happened to the garden, like in Other Mother's world, where, like, everything is done already for Coraline.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like if you want something, you have to help and work with it.
Finally getting her parents out.
Yeah, like all relationships take work. It's not just given to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And probably my favorite part of this is Bobinski, because he's like,
yes.
The Mushkas say that you did a good job, and I like that he's ripping out flowers to replace them with beets.
I do too. I do too.
And we're finally introduced to Mrs. Lovett, YB's grandmother, and we zoom back out, back to the opening shot as the cat disappears behind the sign.
And we get our, like, the cat being the last touch of magic, which I love. Mwah. Beautiful.
Because they're not needed anymore. This house doesn't need to be magical.
No, and will Cat come back? Maybe.
Yeah, possibly. But that's Coraline. It was well received both critically and in the box office. It was a success.
Yeah. It very quickly became a cult classic in the dark and spooky world.
Yeah, which is kind of fascinating because it's really I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, they're all just toned down children's horror stories.
Yes, but they also fall in line with things like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, where yes, they are child appropriate, but the themes behind them and the thoughts behind them are legitimately horror.
Yeah. I mean, we see this with Selleck's other work as well, specifically with Paranorman.
Yes, Paranorman's a great example.
Oh no, I don't think they did
Paranorman. I think that was...
No, Laika Studio did Paranorman.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think he directed it.
No. I don't know. I don't think so.
We got the Googly.
We do have the Googles.
He did not, but I know it's the same studio.
Yes.
It's Laika Studio. But again, he did James and the Giant Peach and Nightmare Before Christmas, so you see it there. But there's something interesting in one of his interviews that he said that there is flavor at DreamWorks, and Pixar does their own thing, and generally they're safe. But you look at Walt Disney's original films, at the time and in the context, they weren't safe, and they were really dark and troubling, which kids
kids like horror.
Kids love horror, exactly. We're the example of, like, kids loving it.
And, like, granted, some kids love direct horror, and some kids love just a spooky concept.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, original Disney works were scary. Like, the original Snow White, that had some pretty scary scenes, and it didn't shy away from the fact that, like, she was straight up gonna be murdered.
Yeah.
Like, knife to heart, and then he got soft.
Yeah, there's a lot that this movie has going for it.
Yeah.
And I do want to bring up Gaiman's thoughts about it, because it is interesting to hear what the original creator of the work does.
Especially from someone who is used to having his work reiterated into movies or TV shows.
Mm-hmm. And for the most part, Gaiman liked the adaptation, and he said, and I quote, he quite liked the sassy blue-haired American Coraline.
Which is the most Neil Gaiman sounding thing I've heard in a while.
Which is interesting because knowing that the first draft of Coraline was so faithful to the original work, and both Selleck and Gaiman didn't like it.
Yeah. Which is, I think, a really good telling of how Selleck went from liking a thing to understanding it. Mm-hmm. And reinterpreting it in the most true way. Exactly.
And both of them understanding that you can't directly translate novel to movie.
Which I think is one of the reasons why, for the most part, most of Neil Gaiman's works do really well as TV and movie shows. Partially because, A, his concepts are way out there. He has humor built into his writing for mm-hmm. people. Like, a good example is Good Omens. Which sets up having, like, a funny dynamic duo without being, like, true comedy, which oftentimes is hard to rewrite from book to screen. Yeah. Having just wit and banter be the humor behind stuff helps a lot.
And maybe I'm wrong on this or maybe I'm right, I don't know. It's that the movie kept the core themes and ideas.
Yes, which I think for both of them made it so that without having to directly hold each other's hands, mm-hmm. they were both able to understand each other's work and mediums and be able to create something that really, like, honored that and reflected it really well.
Well, and I think maybe it also just allowed Selleck, because I know Selleck he brought up that he couldn't make it set in England, probably because he didn't have that experience and he just couldn't do it there and make it work. Because from my understanding, the book is relatively dry.
Gaiman is very British in his writing, so, like, a lot of it is dry.
Tolkien.
No, I would say that Tolkien is less dry.
Okay.
Only because Tolkien will throw in a random naked scene. For no goddamn reason. Whereas, where Neil Gaiman stuff might have titties, it is in that dry, modern British humor way.
Okay.
Where, like, we are straightforward to the point, but also tripping balls. Just real wild in concept. But that's part of the charm and why a lot of his stuff rewrites work is because they are inherently dark, humor, dry.
Okay.
Kind of like how, like, certain seasons of Doctor Who hit the same, like, points for people, and then when they try to remake it, they miss that because it's no longer dark, dry, and full of sadness.
Why a lot of people I know the Three Who's and not the other ones outside of that, really.
Exactly. It's kind of the same concept, and so honestly, they kind of got lucky that they got a director who fit that styling really well. He
Okay.
already had kind of the concept of the dark humor with Nightmare Before Christmas, and he had a lot of the inspiration of British stylings and writings with James and the Giant Peach.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But with all that praise, there is one thing Gaiman did not like.
There's always something.
He did not like the very end where Wybie is to the rescue instead of Coraline saving herself. And I agree with that. That part of the ending is a bit weak, but I get how the movie ends where it returns back to where it started.
Yes, and I, especially now that it's been quite a long time and I have had time to fully digest both book and movie form, I don't mind the movie's end. I will say, though, that I understand the author's slight frustration with that being the end, because in the book, first off, there is no Wybie.
Yeah.
But a lot of Neil Gaiman's work, especially Coraline being a good example of it, while being a fun, fanciful acid trip of a time, usually has some sort of lesson, some more obvious than others, like example being American Gods, where he turns things that we worship now into gods, like television and media, Facebook, that sort of stuff, into living gods that have, like, a persona. Whereas with Coraline, a lot of what he has come out to say was, like, he was trying to create a story where the female protagonist is not the damsel in distress, she is not the bold heroine, she is just a kid, and she has to fight her way through. Kind of like Spirited Away.
Okay.
Similar concept of, like, he just wanted a strong female character who manages to save herself.
Yeah, where Haku isn't really to the rescue,
he's just in the story.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what Gaiman's point was with Wybie. Not necessarily that he's mad that Wybie exists, but his original intention was for this to be a story for girls to be able to see themselves winning the battle.
Yeah, and I can see that, because, I mean, I don't think he had any complaints about Wybie up until that point in the movie.
Yeah.
But I also like Wybie's inclusion, as Wybie feels like he's to the rescue, and he's doing what his grandmother couldn't do.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of inclusion like that.
Yeah, like I said, after so many years of loving this movie and the book, but to a lesser extent, I don't mind Wybie coming to the rescue at the end, partially because it does feel like he's finally making up for his grandmother and his great aunt's, shortcomings.
Yeah, because I remember when we picked this movie, you're like, yeah, we can do it, but I fucking hate Wybie.
I do fucking hate Wybie, but I hate Wybie because he is the weakest character.
Okay.
And part of that is because, A, he's not part of the original cast. And so when you shoehorn a character in, they always will stand out a little bit.
Okay.
But the other reason is because I do have a soft spot for that style of storytelling. That's kind of why Studio Ghibli has always stood out to me, is they do a great job of having a female protagonist who doesn't need to get married, doesn't need to find a man, and usually saves herself or her village or her trees, depending on the story, without the need of help.
Yeah, well, and even that, on that note, which, by the way, I did rewatch only last week, still holds up.
Still good? Good.
But even to that note where, yeah, she does eventually want to get married, or somewhat proposes at the end of the movie, it's all about, like, her self-discovery, and
yes.
I think...
that's my own, like, granted, I say I hate Wybie in another tier. Like, this movie is in a different tier of love for me. I think it's damn close to a perfect claymation movie. I think it's one of the greatest, like, spooky preteen movies that is available, even by, like, going all the way back. And, like, that's saying something for someone who watched all of them religiously as a kid, and even as an adult. I think this movie is damn near perfect. Wybie's just the smallest bit off, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's not like he's off enough for me to be like, damn the movie. No, he's just slightly off.
I get that.
It's like having a slightly too crispy piece of bacon. It's still bacon. I still love it. It's just not exactly what I wanted.
I get that. Well, and that's the thing, too. So with this movie, revisiting it as a much more mature person.
Yes.
And yeah, over a decade from its release. I think probably one of the best things is how subtly the movie portrays absent mother figures.
Yes, and just, like, hard childhood times in general.
Yeah, it kind of in the same way like Brave does it too.
Yeah.
But in a different way, where, like, Brave is...
That's the focus of Brave, whereas this one, you
It's a side theme.
It is a side theme. I also really like this movie's interpretation of childhood hard times because there is a lot up to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a person who, depending on where you're from or what you see in the film, you can either see this as Coraline not adjusting well to her family's current hard times, or this is something that maybe has been going on for a long time. We don't know.
I interpret it as because of how the movie ends and how we see it beforehand, Coraline's not adjusting to the move very well. I mean, you see them like first-time kids who like got moved into a military family and they're not doing well.
Yes, exactly. But like, again, that's our personal experience talking there. There's a lot of people who watched this and felt like Coraline's drive to have any form of connection was something bigger or deeper. And that's what makes this a perfect movie, is it allows... It doesn't have giant holes in it for the audience to try and fanfic have to fix, but it has enough, like, mystery and openness that a person could easily interpret things to match themselves better.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. I personally think it's Coraline blowing things out of proportion.
Oh, I do too. And as someone who has been an 11-year-old girl who, like, we had struggles and problems, none of them were, like, life-threatening, but at 11, you can't tell all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, something big, like moving multiple states away happens.
Imagine moving entire countries away.
Yeah, at 11, you mess with you. Especially when you move to somewhere that's very different from what you're used to.
To give
Us military kids don't count.
No, I to give perspective for listeners, I moved from Alaska to Germany when I was like 9, so...
Yeah, some of us don't count, but others of us, like, yeah, especially if this is her first move ever.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I get it. It is.
But again, like, that's part of the, like, gold of Coraline, is there's room for you to, like, associate with either the parents or with Coraline, or put your own spin on how you think she's handling things.
Okay. It's
part of the, like, this is why Coraline, for me, works as, like, the perfect growing up story.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. She doesn't grow up a lot, but she does learn a little.
She learns a lot.
She does learn a lot. First off, she learns that she doesn't want to be eaten.
Yeah, and she's smart to begin with, so
she is,
smart enough.
Yeah, and that's why this is, like, top tier, like, kids films for me. Like, I put this up there with Spirit Away. Every kid who walks through my doors who is of past the age of, like, only happy cartoons will be watching this film.
Okay, I dig it. And before I get into the ratings, I do want to bring up something interesting that Selleck mentioned, is that movies are lives without the boring bits. Animations are movies without the boring parts of live action.
And I 100% agree.
It is a very interesting mindset, and that's probably why, like, a lot of animated movies... Because, honestly, we've spent about 3 hours talking about this movie. And
yeah, it's not that long.
No. Well, it's about an hour 40-something.
Yeah, which honestly, for how much concept is covered, it's not that long.
And because they have to make it dense and compact to do it.
I also think that part of the way that especially live-action claymation or stop animation movies are made is that they have to pre-write every single scene. Like, almost religiously. Like, there is no guesswork when they start filming, for the most part. Granted, there's always going to be one or two things that get changed or adjusted, but for the most part, there is no last-minute rewriting of lines. There is no last-minute, we couldn't get so-and-so, or we had to refilm this months after this was done. There is none of that, which means that there's a lot of dumb fluff removed.
Yeah.
They've had time to think about it and see it and work it out, and I think that shows. And I honestly would like to see this process applied to other versions of movies.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, because, I mean, there's so many movies where Laufenstein brings it up every now and then of, like, you watch a movie, how much of this movie could you cut, and it would still be the same movie?
Yeah, that's always the question.
Yeah, which... I'm curious what he's going to do when he gets to Love Exposure, because that's a 4-hour movie.
Yeah. Ooh.
I don't think there's fluff to that movie, in my opinion, but
at the same time, like, with the stop-motion animation mindset, is there something that could have been reworked? There's always going to be the question.
Yeah.
Granted, some movies, the answer is no. But I think a lot of movies, the answer is yeah.
Yeah. This isn't one of those.
So. No. This movie's perfect.
So, Chris, at the end of it, on our good, bad, weird scale, what do you rate this movie?
This is a good, so good. Everyone will be watching this.
I give it a solid good 2. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything bad about it. I don't think there's anything weird about it.
Even my gripes are minuscule.
Same. So, I know you brought it up earlier, but for the record, do you recommend this movie?
Yes, even to people who are not live action fans, even to people who think that, like, they're not into kid movies, you need to see Coraline at least once.
I agree. This movie is definitely one of those top animated movies for kids to watch, or for kids, adults to watch, just anyone to watch in general. It's just a good movie all around.
It is a solid movie.
Yeah, so, but anywho, this is our first episode of 2023. I hope you guys all have a good year and a good start to our movie watching again, so, but anywho, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace!
Good timing, Charlie.
Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.